You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome in. I don't think we're going to overstate this at all. This is by far the biggest game to date of the season and will be the most tough, most difficult game as well for the season for the Pacers tonight at Cambridge Fieldhouse. Hey, welcome in, JMV here. Thank you very much. The voice is still kind of a little bit weird. I have no idea why, but it's okay because much like what the Pacers are trying to do tonight, we're trying to get out in front of this and then kind of put ourselves in best position. So that's what I'm doing right here with the show. Put myself in the best position to discuss Pacers-Cavaliers game number 3. This is simply put, for a variety of reasons, the most important. I will start right here. And we know this. This is no original thought. But I'll start with this note. It's you do not want to give any proof of life. You want to give this team every reason to bag it coming up on Sunday evening. You go down 0-3. Then you have to hang around here all weekend long, and then you have to wait your ass until 8 o'clock on Sunday night and fight for survival. I'm not suggesting these guys don't have significant pride to want to do that. I'm sure they do. Hey, listen, they are talented. Did you see what they did this regular season? And evidently, all three are going to give it a significant go later on tonight. Garland with his Sergeant Holka, Mobley with his ankle, Hunter with his thumb, and their head coach with his significant wines. All going to give that a go coming up later on tonight. And you would expect nothing less from a team that has a great deal of pride. I mean, hell, you saw it in game number 2 with the backup dudes and how far they pushed that to the very end. And the Pacers had to have just an incredible finish to cash that in. So what you do if you go in tonight, and I don't care if they are fully loaded, all personnel, all hands on deck. What you do, you invite everybody to start talking about how fraudulent you are. And I know that I'm sure, doesn't matter to them, but it is something that will be asked. It is something that will be constant, and that is just another form that will last all weekend long. Yeah, I mentioned what's going to happen with the Cavaliers. You lose tonight, you got to wait all weekend long for game number 4 to fight for survival. If you're the Pacers and you lose tonight, and then it's overwhelming, hey, the Cavaliers are back in control. They are who we thought they were. Their guys are back, and this Pacer team is going to be fraudulent. Both are angles, significant angles, that nobody wants on either side. So what do? If you're a member of the blue and gold, you go out there and you put them as close to the brink and out of their misery as you possibly can. And that's by doing what you do. That's why coming out as you did in game number 1, not as we saw in game number 2, not get overwhelmed or swamped, if you will, by the physicality in which they approached the game with their backups, and they did. You know, I mentioned this, what Kitty Atkinson whined ass about, before game 2, and then after game number 1, they went out and performed that way during game 2. That's what they did. Exact same thing. You cannot get overwhelmed by that. The clutching, the grabbing. You're going to have, again, bigger and better and more talented pieces out there, presumably, that will also be trying to make Tyrese Halliburton incredibly uncomfortable. And that's what comes with Halliburton with the territory. And nobody's breaking new ground on this. It's just the way that it is. Yeah, that new territory is if you're going to be the guy, if you're going to make those game-winning shots, if you are the elite level player on your team, you can never just go away. You can't be taken away. You got to bring it every single evening to that level. That is just the bar in which you set. All of a sudden now that's the ceiling. I think we expected that around here. And I think you get a great deal of gratification when others nationally recognize you. Go, hey, there's our guy. He's getting talked about right there. That's great. But you have to continue to prove it. It's not just, well, this game and then this game we skipped and it wasn't so good and then go on to that game. That level of player has to be there. And with the Pacers, it is different because he is the key that unlocks the front door and lets everybody else on his team in. That is him. They perform the way they perform because, as I've mentioned before, he's the guy that orchestrates that. He's the Pied Piper that gets everybody to follow him, gets everybody where they need to be, where they're best suited to finish and produce, where they feel most comfortable. He can't be made uncomfortable, as we witnessed early in that game, especially the first quarter. Here's ideally what you would love to happen, because you know at some point that the Cavaliers are going to put the hammer down and really come strong at them. You would love to see, with this crowd behind them, this Pacer team come out there full gas. Grand Prix weekend, month of May, IndyCar, all that stuff. The hammer absolutely down. And then not only play off of what you're doing, what you're producing, how you're looking, but also feed off a crowd. You quieted that crowd in the first two games. Now you want that crowd, you, tonight, you want that team, or if you're that team, you want that crowd on your back. That's what you do. You don't come out lightly. You come out with force. You push, you execute, and then you make these guys that just sat out a game, or Darius Garland, who's been out for a long period of time, you make that injury hurt worse. I'm not suggesting hack at it or make them. No, here's how you make them injured. You make them disappointed in what they're doing on the floor. That makes that injury even more uncomfortable. What makes an injury go away is when you're stroking the three, when you're looking good, when you're in the flow, when you're executing. There is nothing more that fights the doldrums away, nothing more that will be a cure to the pain that you have, the uncomfortable nature of whatever injury that you have right now, an ankle, a thumb, a toe. There is nothing better than looking good out there. Looking good as an individual, as a team, to make that go away. You have to, if you're the Pacers, exploit that pain by what you do on the floor. I'll start right there. Get back to you guys coming up in a bit. Dustin DePuret coming up at the bottom of the hour. We'll get a Grand Prix weekend update. The track dude Michael Young is out at IMS. He joins us coming up at 4. And it's going to be a lot of me and a lot of you yip-yapping coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. So I suggest everybody haul some ass. If you're on the way downtown, you're going to celebrate with me. For example, we're going to go to Coach's before we hit the game tonight. So I will see you there. Me, Brent Holverson, I know Heaven Hill's going to be with me. We're going to have a blast down there, so you can join us. Tommy S., I'm sure, is going to be there. I'm not doing a live show there, but by God, I'll be there by 6:05. So let's do it. So in the 5 o'clock hour, there's going to be a lot of what you're thinking about. So by then, we should have concretely exactly what's going on. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he is from ESPN Radio. He is a friend of the show. Mostly every Friday he joins. It is Mike Wells. So any takeaways from where we're going with this Pacer team up 2-0, best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals with, again, presumably the Cavaliers getting back to about as full strength as we've seen them for a while now?
Well, I think you probably hit it on the head a second ago, Jay, when you said you can't, just because you're up 2-0, the Pacers can't walk into the field house tonight and think they got control of the series. Because that's the worst thing that can happen is you go out, come out flat, and the Cavs, because at some point you would like to think the Cavs are going to stop blowing leads. They're going to handle their business, and they're going to compete, and it won't go out and blow a 20-point lead like they did the other night or lose in the final seconds of the game. So complacency is probably my biggest concern when I look at tonight's game, is that the Pacers like, hey, we have a chain gap, we got some breathing room, and we're going to be okay. I think they need to go out right now. They got their foot halfway on the Cavs' throat. They need to go in for the juggernaut and do whatever it takes to make sure that they do not go back to Cleveland for a Game 5.
And there's a difference here. There's a difference. And I'll take, for example, the 3 injured players. And a lot was made in that first-round series with the Rockets and Golden State, that the Rockets were going after the shooting thumb, the injury of Steph Curry, that injury at that moment, the thumb. And a lot was made about them hacking and going at it. I'm not advocating the Pacers going at injuries other than going at it with their execution, because, as I mentioned, if things aren't going right for the Cavaliers, those injuries will play more of a significant role and be more of a hindrance for those 3 players on the floor if things aren't going right, and especially if there is an early snowball effect in game number 3. Teams have pride, and I'm sure they're going to hang in. They're talented as hell, but you can lose a little bit of will along with this crowd here if the Pacers come out and really put that hammer down, Mike.
Oh, listen, I'm gonna put it like this: the way the Pacers were able to come back, I don't see the Cavs being able to do that. And let's just say Indiana gets a 20-25 point lead, and I don't see the Pacers the way they're built, the home crowd at the field house, and the head coach and Rick Carlisle to allow Cleveland to get back and, try to steal a game that they probably shouldn't have won. This Pacers team, the way they're built to be able to put their foot on the throat. And we could. And what's funny is, I think back to our conversations back in November, December, early January, where you and I acknowledged we had question marks about this Pacers team. They have completely fit the script, and they're a team that when you watch them play, even during their lulls, you think at some point they're going to make a run and get back into the game. Even if they come up short, they're going to compete until the final horn. So, long story short, Indiana comes out and they lay in a couple of haymakers right from the get-go and get the crowd behind them. This could be a blowout.
Mike, your advantages tonight would obviously be the 2-0 advantage in the best of 7. It is going to be the home court advantage you're going to have for the next 2, beginning tonight in game number 3. And it is going to be the pace of play, which I know Cleveland can do. But again, there got to be questions, and there have to be questions regarding these 3 players. I mean, a toe, significant, an ankle, significant. I don't know about the thumb. I mean, hell, you can run around there if you're Andre Hunter with a thumb. It may be a struggle to shoot the basketball, but he can do a lot of the things that he does. But you got 2 guys that you question whether or not they're going to be able to move around at full strength, and the Pacers absolutely, Mike, have to exploit that.
No, they have to. And listen, I think the thumb with DeAndre Hunter is a big deal because I think it goes into the strategy on how the Pacers want to defend him. I think, obviously, Darius Garland's going to get what he can. He's going to have the ball in his hands. But a guy like Hunter, instead of wanting to play up on him to kind of protect from that, that 18 to 19-foot jump shot, I'm sagging off of him, and you're going to allow whoever's guarding him, whether it's Miles or whatnot, to say, okay, shoot the ball. I'm going to provide help side defense elsewhere and just dare him and prove that he can make those shots. So I think DeAndre Hunter's injury, it could play into Indiana's favor. Listen, you hate to see any player injured. You don't want to see any player injured, especially in the postseason. But this is a hindrance for the Cavaliers and could help, the way that the Pacers want to defend during tonight's game.
So Mike Wells of ESPN Radio, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So besides what you've witnessed in that Game 1 dominance, what's been the most consistent to you impression you've had regarding this Pacer team and why it's out to a 2-zip best-of-7 advantage?
Honestly, it's their desire to compete. Even when, obviously, Twitter was going crazy the other night when they were fall behind. And, I'm Captain Obvious in this situation. But Tyrese Halliburton's confidence, the way he's playing in this series, it's like he's got that chip on his shoulder and says, you guys want to call me overrated, but screw you guys. I'm going to be out there and I'm going to show you that I'm not overrated. And it's fun to see. Like, I'm serious. If you're a Pacers fan right now, you got to have complete belief that, especially when you look at the other side of the semifinals between the Knicks and the Celtics, you got to believe that the window to get to the NBA Finals now, because of the confidence from top to bottom, is there. that they have to take advantage of this, because even the Celtics have to be questioning themselves on their inability to, close out a game and their desire to live and die by the three-point shot. So to answer your question, the most impressive is it's been the confidence. Like, you, even when they're struggling, you just believe at some point a run's going to come from them.
All right. You look at Pascal Siakam. So Pascal Siakam was somewhat an endangered species of sorts in game number 2. He can't be that. He can't just go away and be a ghost. You did see him late in the game, but it has to be more significant. How do you make sure you get him going? He's got to see the basketball early and often and get things going in a positive direction tonight, does he not?
Two things. Get him some easy buckets in transition, and they need to call some sets for him. So when they're in the half-court set, get him something where he's able to catch and shoot, or he's in a mismatch where he's got somebody who's slower than him or somebody who's smaller than him. So the key is get him something easy early. Get him easy early, and then all of a sudden it becomes a trickle-down effect for him where, all of a sudden the rim becomes, ocean size, and everything he's putting up is going to go in.
All right. What else impresses you about this, bench play-wise? Start with Benedict Mathurin. He's a guy sometimes, I know to other fans, he'll drive you nuts. He never really drives me nuts because I know what to expect right here. I know you're going to give it, or you're going to see him giving you his all out there. He was really good in game number 2. Got to have a mirror image of that, if not a little bit more so, off the pond tonight for the Pacers.
You know what? I wouldn't even say a little bit more. I think if you just get the Benedict Mathurin who's got that dog in him, that mindset, I think you're fine. So I wouldn't even say he needs to throw in more. I just say if he gives you what he gave in game 2, you're gonna be fine out there. It's just a matter, you can't have him, fall back and essentially get more in the fetal position where he's not in that attack mode, because Benedict at his best is when he's attacking and looking for a shot. That's the best thing about him, is that he's a scorer. He's just simply a guy that can get you buckets.
Nice Boom Baby shirts in the gold out later on tonight. I dig that. Certainly more so than the yes sirs. Know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Hey, listen, they need to go ahead and bring out the gold swaggers, man. Get the gold swaggers back in the field house. Let's bring it back. The biggest difference is This is a legit team without jealousy on it. This is not the boys of Lance and Paul and all them where jealousy can come into a play. This is a team that they don't care who's getting their buckets, and that's why they're winning. You look at the dynamics of this team. They are a complete basketball team. That's why they're up 2-0.
What'd you think of Mitchell in game number 2, who goes for 48, but clearly, I guess he was out of gas because he was sprawled ass out all over the floor there late in the fourth quarter, every other possession there. So it's going to be something like that from him later on tonight with his guys back.
I got to tell you, this is the soft side of me, man. I ain't gonna lie. I felt bad for Donovan Mitchell.
Did you?
Because I felt like he played his ass off out there, and they had nothing to show for it when it comes to the win-loss column. They got an L, and he can say I put up 40 plus, but I'm still down 2-0 in the series.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, he did, as much as their head coaches whined about the whistle. He got some phantom stuff out there in his own right over the course of game 2.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, hey, here's my question for you, because I know this is a different segment for me, because I got the IU Media School graduation at the top of the hour. Does the series go back to Cleveland?
Does it? Right now, I'd be hard pressed that Cleveland doesn't at least win one. I'd be hard pressed to think the Pacers are going to sweep. So I'm fully expecting it. But I want to be a little bit more pleasantly surprised by this Pacer team being, as we've kind of talked it up to be right now. All right, so their time is now. And I want them to prove to everybody, and if that's me as well, then so be it, that they're more than just getting by a team that has injuries. Because, honestly, they've done and accomplished what's in front of them. The thing you got to do tonight is you got to quiet the naysayers. You got to quiet the people that suggest, hey, even without 3 in game 2 or without Garland in game 1, that Cleveland has been close. You put them away at home tonight, And that's the difference between the dialogue that's going to go on out there. The dialogue is going to go on if they lose tonight or lose on Sunday is, hey, this Cleveland team has life. The Pacers are just getting by virtue of playing backups. If you really do a number on them tonight when they're reloaded with their real guys, that right there that's a shot, that's a flare that everybody is going to see. And you're going to get a little recognition out of that, certainly more than what they've received so far. And then I think you vault yourself into being that major contender that everybody around here, Mike, wants them to be.
Yeah. No, of course people are going to question, but I'll tell you this. Pacers win tonight, it does not go back to Cleveland.
I would agree with that. I would agree. I'll take that. If they win tonight, they don't go back to Cleveland. You're right.
It is, they will have completely taken Cleveland's soul if they win this game tonight.
That's, again, why this is so incredibly important tonight. I so want them to go out, and I want them to show everybody else what we believe we know about them. And that's what it would take tonight, that type of effort.
No, 100%. Hey, I know you're about to kick me off, brother. I do have to say this. I want to give a shout-out to all the IU Media School students who are graduating today, who have been fortunate enough to have myself, Zach Kiefer, and Kevin Bowen teach them this whole school year or this semester, because the future's bright for all of them.
All right, my brother. I appreciate you. Thanks for hopping on here. Enjoy the game later on tonight.
All right, Jay. Be good, brother. Have a great week.
It is Mike Wells of ESPN Radio watching his students graduate down in Bloomington here in less than an hour or so. Quick break, we'll come back. Dustin DePurak of the Star coming up at the bottom of the hour. We'll get you updated on the 3 Cleveland players that are likely to participate coming up later on tonight and the way this Pacer team is going to look. And the track dude is staked out at IMS. The Grand Prix is coming up tomorrow. We'll get with Michael Young of the IMS Radio Network coming up at 4 and talk about that. 5 o'clock hour is going to be saved for you and I. There's going to be a lot of conversation on the inbound. So my advice, you hang with us. Game number 3. Yeah, I know. Somebody had just mentioned to me that they thought that I was going to be at Coach's today. I'm not at Coach's. I'm in studio, but I'm going to be at Coach's by about 6:05. That's the plan. So I will see you there. If you show up there, we will throw back a couple and get set for game number 3. And there's going to have to be something brought. I mentioned the Pacers having to bring it later on tonight, but something else is going to have to be brought as well. All right, other stuff is going on today. The Pacers getting their rookies in for a look, their first look, and their rookies signed up as well and making some cash in their initial season. Tyler Warren being one. We'll get to that story coming up, too. Do not go anywhere. The stream the app. It's HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. It is a Game 3 and a Mother's Day weekend that should be spectacular with the basketball and the racing going on here in Central Indiana. Keep it right here, locked in, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
with JMV.
If somebody gets in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Track dude about 30 minutes away from IMS. Sancio Grand Prix coming up tomorrow. Fever on the road in Atlanta, final preseason effort coming up tomorrow afternoon right here. Got the track dude and Mike Wells a little bit earlier. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Spiro Ditas, TNT, play-by-play man earlier this week regarding what all went down in game number 2, including the incredible ending. If you missed any of that conversation, that is 1075thefan.com, a podcast. But on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline from the Star, it is Dustin DePurac. Dustin, I want to start here. We saw in what Kenny Atkinson was whining about after game 1 and then entering game 2. That's exactly what he did defensively with his group. They were holding and clutching, and they were overly physical and all of that, really from start to finish. But it was especially evident at the beginning of that game. If they have all their real dudes, as we expect later on tonight for game number 3 back, will they employ, you think, the same type of defensive, how should I put this, physicality to disrupt Tyrese Halliburton in his game like they did in game number 2?
I mean, you'd have to think so. I mean, obviously they were able to at least, kind of cut his water off for a while before he ended up getting going. And that's what certainly the Pacers have dealt with all year, basically, is figuring out how to get somebody off of him when they're sort of devoted to just taking him out of the game. Certainly you saw scenarios early in the season where somebody just face guarded and took him out. And they had some success with that. They were obviously able to eventually get some screens that kind of, pried people off of that. But, I mean, I would say so. I mean, obviously the difference is if you get some of those guys back, you get some guys that are better defenders and some guys that are worse. Obviously, you get the defensive player of the year in the front court, but you're putting Garland back in there, who's not necessarily the same quality defender as maybe an Okoro is. But, they're obviously still going to bring guys off the bench. They're going to run bodies at him. Strus is going to try everything that he can do to cut him off. So, I mean, I certainly would think so. They're going to be physical. I mean, I like obviously you remember last year when Carlisle was saying stuff basically about calls that they were and were not getting in New York. So I mean, I kind of just consider this gamesmanship as far as the whining is concerned. I mean, they all do it, and they all kind of push for their way of getting calls, and they're going to look for the opportunity to get themselves some space basically so that they can do some grabbing and some holding. And the Pacers are going to do some grabbing and some holding. It's going to be a physical game, and they're both going to try to do whatever they can to keep Halliburton on one side, Mitchell on the other, from doing what they want to do. So I think you could expect to see, physical play on both sides because both of them are going to be desperate. If you're the Pacers, you want to not put this thing away now, but put yourself up 3-0. And obviously the Cavs desperately need to win this game.
Let me tell you this. Injuries feel a hell of a lot better when you have a great deal of success individually or team-wise. I think that is going to be a major key, especially early. How much 1-2 the Cavaliers that are injured are going to continue to have with their thumb, with their toe, with their ankle if things aren't going right with the Pacers and this crowd in Game 3.
Sure, no, absolutely. I mean, you obviously come to with a certain amount of momentum and a certain amount of adrenaline and everything if you're pushing it to get back when you're not necessarily 100% yet. But then what changes if you fall behind? Basically, I mean, you still have the same amount of fortitude to push through it. Some guys have more. Some guys get stepped up, and I think you have to give credit for Mitchell. He's been playing through what seems to be a calf strain and not really telling anybody about it. He's been an absolute warrior. So it's like, is Evan Mobley going to be the same? Is Darius Garland going to be the same? Because the math has proven it can't just be Mitchell. He can't be the only guy that's laying it all out there because that's not enough. Basically, that's not enough points. As good as he was and as much as he's produced. So yeah, basically, like they're going to be on the road. If they fall behind early, are they going to have the juice? Are those guys going to have enough just juice to push through whatever they're dealing with? And it certainly depends on the injury, depends on how far how far back they are, how close they are to being 100%. And I'm not really sure, on as far as it comes to any of the three. I'll be interested to see if Hunter can shoot. That'll be sort of an interesting thing as far as I'm concerned. Like, does he have, obviously he can run up and down and get in people's way and play some defense. Can he do anything with the basketball in his hand? I think is going to be an interesting question because he is a guy that averages 14 a game off the bench, or really 17 for the year when you count the stats of the Hawks. Are you taking that guy out on offense just in hopes that the defensive length is going to be enough to make a difference? Does he have any opportunity to really give you anything on the offensive end? I think it's going to be an intriguing question.
You think any of this overwhelming positivity about the three and their return has anything to do with gamesmanship?
I don't know, honestly. I had to shoot around this morning. I didn't realize they had it. So I didn't see it to get a better sense of how they were moving or anything like that. So I'd be able to give you a more definitive answer as far as that's concerned. Right. I don't think there's no point to say these guys might come back and then they don't. I like that. I don't think benefits you all that much, because it's like, all right, well, we've already seen the rest of your guys. We already know we could beat the rest of your guys. You have to gear up for the possibility of seeing something different. And it's like if game starts and Ty Jerome's back in the starting lineup, like the Pacers don't feel like, oh my God, what are we going to do? It's like, we just we've just swallowed Ty Jerome whole. We'll be fine. It's like basically like I don't think it's gamesmanship, because I don't think making the case that the guys might show up. I feel like it goes the other way. I think Rick Carlisle right before game one, when Garland didn't end up playing, he was like, Darius Garland's playing. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not.
And the reason why I bring that up is because there's a lot being made in Cleveland about Garland, not really giving it all to his team because he's not giving it a go. He's getting a little bit of heat nationally, a little bit locally in Cleveland. I kind of wonder if there's a little – because, listen, I'm not going to suggest that he can get out there and play with a toe injury. Who the hell knows but him and the team. Right. But there has been a lot of heat because he hasn't played, and those out there felt that he should be able to, or it was time for him to get out there and play. I just kind of wondered, with that dynamic in mind, if that had any effect going into tonight.
Yeah, it's altogether possible that the pressure has forced his hand a little bit to say, man, I better do this. That's altogether possible that he's heard enough from everybody else to be like, I better try, even if I don't feel great about it. Maybe it's certainly possible. It's like, man, I got more pressure on this than I thought. And again, you don't know, like you said. You don't know if you're not in that body what it can do. And a lot of times we act like we think we know, and we don't. We don't know what. And a toe is a bigger deal than you think. You do have to push off of it. You have to. He is somebody that's got to really sort of drive off that foot and push. He's got to play. To be any good, he's got to be able to accelerate. And if he can't accelerate, what good is he? Is he really helping the team that he's playing and Ty Jerome isn't? For most of the season, that hasn't been the case. Ty Jerome's had a heck of a year. He just hasn't had a very good series. So, I could see with him in particular that there might be, that there's something involved there of, the kind of mental effect of everybody's been beating up on you and questioning your dedication. And so you're stepping up in part just to say, you're not going to, make that comment on me anymore. I'll go out there even if I'm not 100%. I'd rather do that than hear more of this. But, I don't know about, as far as Mobley and Hunter are concerned, I'm more interested. I honestly don't have any handle on Mobley. And it sounded to me like when you say the word dislocation as far as Hunter's concerned, I'm like, okay, can he hold something? Can he dribble? Can he pass? Can he shoot? Are you sure about this? Are you going to put a guy out there that can't handle the basketball? If you can't do it, you can't do it. If that thumb is not where it's supposed to be, then how are you going to shoot? How are you going to pass? What's that look like? And so there's some, whether gamesmanship or just outside effect other than just the medical, that probably has something to do with Garland. Maybe Mobley, I don't know. But I imagine if Hunter can play, that means he must have got fixed up, or you're going to see that he can't do anything with his hands.
He's Dustin DePierac of the Star. Again, Pacers and Cavaliers. Game 3. Pacers up 2-0, best of 7, Eastern Conference semifinals. That tip time tonight is at 7:30. Coverage here on the Fan, on the radio, and, of course, you got it on ESPN coming up later on tonight. So what will they do to change up, obviously, the incredible stat line of Donovan Mitchell? For one, the 21 free throws attempted, but the 48 in the game. I know it was a loss, but how do they address that going into Game 3 defensively, other than saying, hey, it'd be nice if he wouldn't get 48?
You obviously it's the same thing they said about Giannis. You just keep fighting, you just keep getting his way, keep helping off. And it's the same calculation as you dealt with Giannis, is that you can also make him a playmaker if you put too many bodies on him, basically. And you're obviously surrounding him with shooters like Strus and Merrill, Jerome, and Garland, basically when we're both playing together, Mobley and those sorts of things. That's obviously the difficult, when you're playing the Cavs at full strength. That's obviously the question. You're dealing with, 4 all-star caliber guys, and then a pretty lights out shooter in Max Strus. That's what makes it tough to deal with when they're 100%. So, obviously you want better point of attack defense than they've gotten so far. I mean, Nemhard's the best guy they got, and they've been putting him on him, and I don't think he's done a poor job. But the guy's just he's he's something else. I mean, Mitchell has just been absolutely marvelous, and no matter how much they're getting in his way, I mean, he's just getting through contact and pushing through. Dude's a force. I mean, he's probably going to take that last first team All NBA spot after Giannis and Tatum and SGA and Jokic. I mean, he's been tremendous, and he's something else. But I mean, obviously, you're just trying to create as much force there as possible, make him inefficient. Make it so. I mean, obviously, the first game he got 33, but he had 30 field goal attempts, and so you'll take that again. Basically, if it's going to take 30, if he's going to get 30 something, you can live with that if he's taking 30 some shots. I mean, at the end of the day, that's not efficient. They're not scoring on most of their possessions. So that's what you're trying to do, is just make it as hard as possible, get in his way as much as possible. Try to defend without fouling, and again, you're gonna bring two bodies, bring help defense when he kind of has a jailbreak situation, but you're not trying to help off guys that are going to turn a 2 into a 3.
Hey, Dustin, I got to bail after this. Pascal Siakam surprisingly had just 12 points. Now, maybe even more surprisingly, only 8 attempts. What are they going to do to try to get him early involved, I would expect, in Game 3?
Yeah, I mean, you try to get on the ball. You obviously got to get some actions. In this case, basically, obviously the playoffs are all about matchups, and it's all about saying okay. And obviously throughout these last 2 years, basically they've tried to attack basically the weakest link. And in this case, Siakam is not dealing with the weakest link. In either case, it's either been Mobley when he started, who's a defensive player of the year, or Dean Wade, who's a really good, really solid defender, and has done a really good job of sticking with him. So I mean, it's important to get him going, but if the move is not to run up against a brick wall. It's to go find a situation where you have a better opportunity and somebody that you really feel like you can beat. And if you feel better about Aaron Nesmith against Max Strus or against Garland or Mitchell or whoever else is being defended, they're getting opportunities for other guys. And so it's like you don't, as much as over the course of the year or over the course of the series, you try to get your best players involved. In some cases, when you try to just duck the guy who's the best defender and go find somebody else that you could pick on. And so I think that's a lot of what's happening here is basically they're putting really strong matchups on Siakam. Basically it's not as easy to get him the looks that he usually gets, but somebody else is a weak link and they're attacking those weak links.
It's Dustin DePirac of the Stars. Got you covered coming up later on tonight for game number 3. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, man. We'll see you down there. Enjoy the game tonight.
Sounds good. We'll do. Thanks so much.
Got Dustin DePirac of the Star there. Again, Game 3 tonight, Game 4 coming up on Sunday evening. So you've got a full-scale Mother's Day weekend, including racing in between. Michael Young, the track dude, joins us at the top of the hour to talk about that. And Tyler Warren, the tight end, the rookie from Penn State, the 14th overall selection by the Colts, is in and signed 4 years, $20.96 million fully guaranteed. That includes an $11.88 million signing bonus. So there is the franchise tight end for the Colts. That hard target is in and working out on West 56th Street. Quick break, we'll come back. You and me, the track dude, less than 15 minutes away. It is a game day, Game 3, right here on The Fan. 7P, your pregame coverage, 7:30, the tip time. You got it here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So August the 22nd, Everwise Amphitheater, Rob Thomas. Would you like to go? If you would, number 9, we are going to give you a pair. Thanks to my friends at Live Nation, always working with us, too. We've got a lot of fun coming up because it is just about ready. We're thinking about the month of May, and obviously the Pacers in the postseason Game 3 tonight. Got the Grand Prix out at IMS coming up tomorrow. The track dude joins us coming up at the top of the hour. But also, you forget that concert season is upon us right now, too. So we are getting underway. For example, like Everwise and at Ruoff, all the other venues, especially the outdoor venues around the area, is getting ready to go, which is always good. Number 9 at 239-1070. You will go on us to see Rob Thomas. 7:30 tonight, Cavaliers and the Pacers. It feels like, at least that's what everybody is saying right now, that Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter will all be back in uniform and playing coming up later on tonight. So we shall see as to what level. We'll see if that is true. Find out if that's true coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. But you would understand that it would be all hands on deck considering the Cavaliers find themselves pulling into Gainbridge Fieldhouse for Game 3 down 0-2 in the Eastern Conference best of 7 semifinals with the Pacers. So you get 3 and 4 at Cambridge, and the Cavaliers look to be at full strength coming up later on this evening. We'll see if the Pacers can continue to roll and put their hopes on life support for Sunday night, which I think is incredibly important. You do not want to give any proof of life to this team. And at the same time, you also prove something to everybody out there that this just doesn't happen because of the injuries. And if you don't, then that is going to be the storyline that you have to wait for. There are going to be 2 different storylines, and you want to be about the one to where, hey, this team is legit. It is a contender for a reason. That's what you want. You don't want the one of, well, they had close games against a team that didn't have its best players. We went through that last year. Now, again, I don't care as long as you continue to win. You advance to the Eastern Conference Finals as you did a year ago. All you can do is play those that are out there playing against you. I do understand that. But if you want to get away from 48 hours of the consistent, well, this team's really not what we thought it was because it beat up on an injured Cavalier team, you put all that notion to bed tonight, and you're going to have the help of a jam-packed Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Thunder Nuggets tonight at 10 o'clock. Both those games you can see on ESPN. And again, that best of 7 out west is even at a game apiece. It was a Gordon tray that got the Nuggets a winning game 1, and the Thunder. Yeah, Thunder kind of JV'd the Nuggets up in game number 2 in OKC. This is in Denver later on tonight. Game number 3 is coming your way at 10 o'clock. I mentioned the Sancio Grand Prix. I know they were running some practice out at IMS earlier today. The track dude Michael Young's going to join us coming up on the other side. James, do I need to break? James says break. I shall break. I also have time for you. I'm going to have plenty of time after track dude. There's going to be a lot of you and me in at 239-1070. We'll work our way into our predictions for the game tonight, thoughts on the game. I've already presented mine, so if you want to balance it out and give me yours, plenty of time after we talk to the track dude out at IMS, which is coming up next. Game 3, Gainbridge Fieldhouse coverage right here on The Fan. Begins at 7 o'clock, and if you're going to the game, I'll meet you at about 6:05 at Coach's Tavern on the way down there. Coming up later on tonight as well. We'll throw back a couple and get ourselves primed. That's going to be our warm-up. That's going to be our layup line at Coach's Tavern coming up at about 6:05. I'll look for you later on tonight. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now, the track dude in a second. IMS got the Sancio Grand Prix. For those of you asking, the Bronze Funtime Camper will not be out there this weekend. It's going to be out there for race day weekend. It'll be there from before Carb Day all the way through Monday. We're going to be in the Coke Lot. We learned yesterday from Officer Craig, I did not know this, that absolutely everybody needs a Coke Lot bracelet. So actually, I was on my way to Hoop last night, and I called Doug Bowles, and I said, hey, man, I need about 1,000 Coke Lot bracelets. What do you think? He said, yeah, sure. Let's do it. Because he's got to get in there, too. Got to get Connor Daly in there. I know Connor's also got a Bronze Funtime Camper that he's utilizing inside IMS to hang out with and to rest before the greatest spectacle in racing. But the Coke Lot with the JMV takeover, that is 2 weeks from tomorrow night. And I will be hanging out there, ready, willing, and able. And if you want to define that in whatever terms you would like. Ready, willing, and able to take absolutely everything on. And that begins on Carb Day. And thanks to Austin, I should say, a Bronze Funtime Camper. And you can find that at Pendleton Pike. It is going to be an absolute blast, but you have to have, and again, this is according to Officer Craig, you have to have a Coke Lot bracelet. And I was going to Hoop at CG last night, and I called Doug Bowles, and he picked up, and I said, I need about 1,000 Coke Lot bracelets, man. Can you oblige? So I'm trying for everybody out there. So we can have one hellaciously awesome party at a place, a spot that has been known in the past for just that on race weekend on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Speaking of which, I'm assuming if he was called upon to party it up real good, could still stir the echoes of the past. He is the track dude, Michael Young of the IMS Radio Network, who joins us now. Track dude, good afternoon.
You know, John, I would be partying with you, but that night is probably the worst night for me to tie one off. But I will give you a little advice. You're
Sure.
going to need about 27 portalets next to that RV.
Well, you know, there's one toilet in the RV.
But you you don't want to use that.
No, I know. Nobody besides the host of this show will be allowed to do that.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct. It's just kind of like our trip down to Barber Motorsports Park. Just number one, there's nothing else that goes into the portalet in the RV. So
yeah, hey,
that's how that rolls.
This is my bathroom, and that one out there with everybody else is yours. That's for sure.
Right.
Hey, before you started doing the IMS Radio Network and working big time on race day, did you ever spend any time in the Coke Lot of the day?
You know, my first real memory of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was back in 1987 when I first started coming down to the race with my buddies, and we stayed out in what was then the Big Lots lot at 30th and Georgetown.
Right.
So we'd stay at that Big Lots, and speaking of portalets, here's one of my most vivid memories. It was my thought and my buddy's thought after at least 2 cases of beer that we should do something cool and walk around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Wow.
Not knowing that there was no backstretch street to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
So we got down to 16th, started walking down. We finally got to Lafayette Road, and I thought, well, maybe this is a good corridor to go back up. By the time we got to 30th, it was 3:30 in the morning, and when we got back to the car, it was 4:15. We nearly died twice. I had to go to the restroom so bad. I opened the door to the portalet, and well, for lack of a better description, things were crusting. So that was kind of how my first Indianapolis 500, but never the Coke Lot, ever.
Listen, man, I'm proud of you, though, because most people would just drop trowel where they're standing and really not care. But I like the gentleman in you. You decided to go ahead and make sure that you at least had a little coverage there. Well done.
That's right. That is right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You
What a
got
great
that.
day out here today, by the way. It's fantastic. It was a little chilly start to the day, but fans are out in droves. Wish you were out here with us, but going to be a great Sancho Grand Prix tomorrow.
All right, well, tell us a little bit about the story of practice today. Any storylines that have built up going into tomorrow?
Alex Pillow's fast, but I don't think that's a shock to anybody. Louis Foster and Graham Rahal in the second practice session. from Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing. We're quick. We're getting ready to qualify in about a half hour. So that will be the true tail of the tape, and we'll figure out who's fast for tomorrow. But, man alive, this whole 2024 campaign's been the Alex Palou show. So he stunk to show up last year and won from the pole. I would not doubt if he would do the same thing tomorrow.
All right, you've been around, this race, the Grand Prix, the 500 for a number of years, covering races for years, watching races as a fan. Is Palou on track to be one of the greatest we've seen in this series?
Of this era, certainly. I mean, what he's been able to accomplish with, 3 championships in 4 years and doing an unheard of potential 3 championships in a row. It's a real magic time. He and his race strategist, Barry Wanzer, Ricky Davis, the chief mechanic on that team. It's just a special group of people. And actually was talking to Barry about that. I said, what happens when this is over? How do you think this will play out? And he goes, hey, it could all end tomorrow. You never know. So he said, we're just taking it one race at a time without using a cliche. And he said, we're just enjoying every minute of this. And it's one of those special relationships. Barry Wanzer, the race strategist, and Alex Palou, they think alike. They speak the same language. It's just interesting and fun to watch them manipulate a race and plan a race. And it's a lot of fun to watch. And to the point where after we get done with this Sanzio Grand Prix, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Alex Palou right up there in front, if not winning on race day.
Yeah, it's track dude Michael Young, IMS Radio Networks, got us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He is live out at IMS. So we saw the unveiling with Jacob Abel yesterday, Day of Coin, right? And they unveiled what was the tribute to the Spin to Win 85 Danny Sullivan ride. That was a Miller High Life ride back then, and it is today as well. Does that come with a Miller High Life sponsorship, or is that just recognition of 85?
I don't know how to answer that question, other than I think there might be something there, but I don't know for sure. I know Bill Abel was talking with Danny Sullivan, and they got Miller Coors involved with it, and obviously with them being a sponsor out here at the track, I will get a definitive answer for you. I've heard several say they didn't think anything came with that, but that's an awful lot of money to spend on a livery, and I wouldn't be surprised if something came along with that package.
That among the liveries of the past has always been one of the greatest right there. It is really cool that they brought that back, regardless if they brought some money with it or not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just, a tribute to, 40 years ago, Danny Sullivan did that Spin to Win here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the south end of the track. It just harkens back to one of those fantastic memories, and one that I think anybody who's even remotely astute of this race will remember that moment and how that whole thing unfolded. And it's just great to see those paint schemes again, right? And to see a sponsor that I think a lot of fans can relate to, the champagne of beers on the side of the car. It certainly harkens back to some glory days for not only this sport, but for history in America and just partiers around the world. It's a killer paint scheme. Looking forward to seeing that coming up Tuesday.
I would agree with you too. And, our great memories are with those great sponsors. And, there used to be, more than just a couple of beer sponsors. Bud was a part of it, most significantly, at least in my memory, would be with Bobby Rahal. And, you had Miller Genuine Draft that was a part of it back in the day. You had all these different beers, and they all kind of faded away. It was really cool to see it back with that Jacob Abel ride yesterday.
Yeah, and then with the tribute, and speaking with Bill Abel, the conversation started, obviously, Danny Sullivan from the area, Louisville down there, that conversation started, and it really happened relatively quick. And Bill said he started talking with Danny, and a half hour, 45 minutes after he made the phone call, he's like, I'm still talking to Danny and was telling stories. He said it was amazing just to get to know Danny Sullivan and for Danny to not only welcome this partnership, but to be so supportive of what they're trying to do.
You mentioned Alex Palou, his impression so far, which is significant. There's no doubt about that. Anybody else stand out to you as far as momentum concerned going into the month of May out there?
Obviously, Joseph Newgarden will be good. I thought they had a good test. Scott McLaughlin will be good. I hear Penske will be good. The one team that really I thought was impressive was Andretti Global. Kyle Kirkwood was quick. Former winner Marcus Erickson was quick. Colton Herta was quick. So I just think in watching the open test, and granted that was all relative, right? A lot of the teams didn't bring their good cars out, if you will. That was the road course car with some super speedway wings on them. So we'll see what these teams truly have come Tuesday when we turn this thing back and start going the right way again. But I would be interested to see how Andretti Global does, but Penske will be strong. And, those Hondas of Scott Dixon and Alex Palou will be very good. I think Pato Award, Arrow McLaren, it'll be interesting to see Christian Lundgaard, who's been great on all these road courses and street courses thus far in 2025, how he fares on the oval. Connor Daly with Hukos Hollinger. I could name probably 5 more. It's going to be a fun Indianapolis 500 once I think everybody figures out the hybrid and how best to deal with the hybrid and race conditions. That's going to be the key.
He's the track dude Michael Young of the IMS Radio Network. The Sancio Grand Prix is coming up tomorrow out at IMS, of course. That is officially the start of the month of May here in Indy. And I've always wanted to know this, and I was curious if you've heard or anybody has told you. And this, I guess, pertains more to the bigger teams in the series. Would they, or, significantly more everybody else, rather concentrate on the 500 than do this kind of Grand Prix thing prior to a week's worth of practice for qualifying, or is everybody pretty cool with doing this and then gradually getting into it as they will next week?
I think it's been accepted now with these teams and running this Grand Prix. I mean, obviously we don't need 2 weeks of practice any longer. A good 3-4 days of practice with that open test, and we're ready to go qualifying. So I think this is a good reacclimation of the mentality of the month of May. We get started again in Mother's Day weekend, that we have a Grand Prix and then take a day off, come back out on Tuesday with the circuit reconfigured for doing the oval. Anytime we're out of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I think whether it be teams, drivers, anybody, we're happy to be here. Yeah. And the fact that we're able to be out here and having a race early in the month and then concentrating on the 500, I think is well accepted across the paddock.
Yeah, I would agree with that, too. It's funny. Our late, great friend Robin Miller always thought that you didn't want to water down the 500 and the product in the month of May. And we would always argue about how I think anytime you open the gates up out there, it is always really cool when everybody is invited in to spend the day or spend the whatever the case might be. I think the more you do it, the better off everybody will be and more enjoyable that the whole place is for you.
You're creating new history, and I don't care if we go 3 wide at the start-finish line tomorrow afternoon, and it's a photo finish. That will all be forgotten on Sunday, Mother's Day, and everybody will be thinking about the Indianapolis 500. It's just that special of an event.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It's the track dude, Michael Young. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So what else is going on in the track dude life right now?
Just elephant ear machine away from being a carny. I do whatever I can to stay in business. You throw in an elephant ear machine, and I could be out here at the track 24/7. So, just getting old and still popping on Allison Chain and
yes.
Goldfinger, whatever I can. Trying to keep the youth alive.
Telling you, you got.
It was funny. One of our new producers up on the 9th floor. We got on the PA this morning, Greg Rakestraw and I, and we started talking. He goes, I used to listen to you when I was a little kid on X103. And I'm like, my God, yeah. I mean, it's funny that it's still a recollection in anybody's mind because that seemed to me to be a lifetime ago. So
well, it is considering what that station is now, to be quite honest with you. And I was actually going over this the other day, and you're perfect to have on here. When I said I wanted to get the track dude on, but you're obviously the music director / PD. You and Scott Jameson, or Etzel Ferrari, as he was known on the air. He was the program director as well. But who do we have? We had Andy Chanley. We had Madison Taylor, correct?
Madison, yep.
And
it was Madison.
Yeah. Who was before Ritz in the afternoon?
It was Madison was middays, and then there was a plethora of Andy was mornings, and then it was Gonzo. Greg was in there, was
Yeah.
stuck for a while.
And Bo Asner, that's
Asner,
Craig
Bo was in there.
Boaz from down near me in Center Grove. Bo Asner,
Yep.
correct?
Afternoons, it was Slam and Sam in its initial days. Then we got Adam, and I can't remember. God, it's been so long ago.
Give me that Dangerous Dick at Night story. Did he really play naked Twister on the air and get fired, or is that a myth?
I think what it was. Was my recollection of it. It was tickets for the REM concert.
Yeah.
And if you came to the studio and got naked or showed your top, that he would give you free tickets, and of course that was frowned on.
Wow, why have I never thought about doing that? What a hell of a promotion that is.
I mean,
that guy's a god.
Dude, you could have all kinds of clean in your studio, and you don't even know about it. I mean, just have him come up the elevator, you're good to go.
God,
I win tickets.
I always viewed Dangerous Dick as a god right there.
Yeah, I mean, there were other instances of him coming close to losing his job. I think that was the final nail in the coffin.
Do they actually, because if you remember, there was a side door to the X, but if you used the front door, you had to walk like all the way down the hall and all through the place. So he just invited people in?
I think the side door was just propped open, and you just came in, and if you were there to win tickets, that's how it happened. So, yes, Chris Wheat did not care for that. I don't care how Chris Wheat was not. He was, of course, the general manager. Not a fan of all the shenanigans that happened in that building at 6161. That was frowned upon.
Man, there are times that I will recollect those moments when I had to go to the bathroom, and it would always be the men's club right there.
Yep.
Because you knew that. Now, was it Bob Cavoyan or Tom Griswold, or was it Cookie or Dan Metler or Eddie Hazel that brought those magazines? The men's club had a stack of nudie magazines in the bathroom. That's where it was.
You were 0 for 4. It was Jay Baker. Jay Baker. And if you notice, every issue, none were pristine. They were all a tad bit tattered. So those were the used inventory.
Oh, no.
Out. Yeah,
I got him secondhand after Jay Baker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's surprised you didn't become pregnant with children. So, those were tattered and torn, to say the least. So.
Man, those were the days. You know, that is, Michael, and you know this well, that is a portion of radio that never, ever will be seen again, but it is absolutely glorious to talk about.
If you told stories and began to tell the Christmas parties that we used to have, and what used to happen at those Christmas parties, and each year there would be a special video put together by Dean Metcalf, Whit Grayson, and they would put a video together, and the things that happened in that video would be lawsuits and grounds for firing in any day and age past the 1998, 99, 2000s when we started to finish up those. So, yeah. It was crazy indeed.
Now, what year did when you first got there, that was before when grunge took over, you guys switched 103.3 from the Fox, which was rock and hairband stuff, to alternative, which was Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, etc., correct?
Yep. Yeah, it was actually the Fox, and then we went to Solid Rock. Well, it was Solid Rock X103. And then we went to Indy's new rock alternative because we weren't really alternative, and we kind of wanted to play, still keep our heavy rock heritage without sounding like we were going to play the Violent Femmes 24/7. So it was a fine balance. If you remember, our top of the hour ID was the redheaded stepchild of Clear Channel Broadcasting. I mean, we tried to play off the corporate as much as we could.
Well, I mean, and you played off the Bob and Tom show, which was well established certainly by then. You played off of that. The other thing in closing here, Dr. Drew, whose idea was Dr. Drew at night?
Well, we had Dr. Laura. Who
was the Drew? What they had the sex talk show or Love Line or what the hell was that? Love Line?
Dr. Drew, that was Scott Jameson. I was more a fan when we had Dr. Laura on. That was weird. She could all start talking about, mama parts and things, and it was a little uncomfortable. But I think some of the people actually enjoyed it. It was Hey, imagine pulling that off now.
I
On
thought
a
it was
hard rock
like
station.
I thought somebody was trying to do Love Line. I remember when I had
Yeah,
to.
we did have Love Line.
I remember at Indy, I had to run the Fabulous Sports Babe track, dude.
Oh yeah. God, I forgot about that. Oh my God.
The Fabulous Sports Babe. Woo.
Oh my God, that is crazy.
Well, hey.
Fantastic. We're getting ready to qualify, so
Yep.
always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for checking in with us on the way down to Barber Motorsports Park, and man, I'm looking forward to some debauchery in the month of May out
Well,
in Oklahoma.
it is. Hey, I called Doug Bowles last night and ordered 1,000 Coke Lot bracelets. So hopefully they all come in.
You know how to give them away, don't you?
How's that? Oh yeah, like
Well,
Dangerous
yeah.
Deck. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you might not have a job, but you're going to have a heck of a party, my
You
friend.
got that right. All right, man. I appreciate you. Great to talk to
You got
you.
it, brother. We'll talk soon.
That is
Yeah.
the track dude Michael Young of the IMS Radio Network as they get ready to qualify. Oh, those were the days that I was on the fringe. I was working at NDE at the time. But and it was at really kind of the tail end. And across the hall, Nigel was doing nights on the X back when I was just starting out at NDE. Adam Ritz was in the afternoon. The Fabulous Sports Babe. Is the Fabulous Sports Babe still with us? Do we know? And if so, does the Fabulous Sports Babe still have a content presence anywhere? Just out of curiosity. James, is it the first time you've ever heard of the Fabulous Sports Babe?
That is indeed the first time I've ever heard of that.
That was like a midday show on the sports station there, and that's before Tony Kornheiser took over the midday show there. The Fabulous Sports Babe. Hopefully, the Sports Babe is still with us.
What was her real name? Nancy?
I have no idea. I just knew her by the Fabulous Sports Babe.
Nancy Donnellan?
Could be.
Apparently.
Sounds about right. Anything could be.
That's what pops up when I go to Wikipedia.
Does it say that Nancy is still with us?
It does not have any update on her current status.
All right, then. Oh, man, those were the days with the track dude. Podcast that one up at 1075thefan.com. Those were the good old days right there. I mean, every X-Fest, every Lollapalooza, all that stuff in the 90s all took place.
She is still with us.
Oh, good. So, the Fabulous Sport. How old? Do you have an age?
It does not say. She was, born June 7th, 1948, but it does not give me the actual age.
Sports Babe.
Yeah.
Jennifer says, oh, my God, I remember the Fabulous Sports Babe simulcast on ESPN2. That is so true. So true. So they had, I think Mike and Mike started in, 2000? And I remember when Mark Patrick tried out for that. And he did a week on there. Tony Bruno used to do the morning show, did the midday back then, too. I'm assuming Tony Bruno is still on the air somewhere, probably in Philadelphia. Yeah, those were the days right there. But the days of the X, that was some good stuff. You can imagine going to all those Lollapaloozas and all the May Days and all the X-Fans, what took place. It's a track dude, too, and they're qualifying out at IMS for the Sancio Grand Prix coming your way tomorrow. Let's take a break, and we'll come back. I got room for everybody right here. In fact, the rest of the way, I have carved out a lot of time to talk about Game 3 coming up later on tonight, and hopefully we get some more solidified news regarding Garland, Mobley, and Hunter, and really we expect all three to play. As to what level, we'll find out, but again, down 0-2, it'll be all hands on deck, I would assume, coming up later on tonight. Game 3, 7:30 tip time down at Gambridge Fieldhouse, where you, the fans, have to be loud. Zach says, how about X103's Hunt for Traffic? Correct. Now, if you turn that around, the Hunt for Traffic, that was Don Stuck. And if you turn Traffic Hunt around and you say it quickly, yeah.
I gotcha.
That's what that was, a play on words. Jim McCann in Southern California says the Sports Babe, she'll turn 77 June the 7th. Well done right there. Quick break, we'll come back. We got your calls. We'll talk Game 3 and whatever else you want to do, too. If you want to do some IndyCar Grand Prix, update you on our race weekend festivities as well and everything that leads up to it. Mother's Day weekend. Happy Mother's Day on the inbound to all the mothers out there, too, and what should be for sports fans an incredible weekend, certainly here in Central Indiana. Starts tonight with game number 3. 7 o'clock, your coverage begins with the pregame show, Cavaliers and the Pacers, right here on The Fan. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Back with you next.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, so you have Carb Day. Are you stirring the echoes of greatness coming up here 2 weeks away where I'm going to be out in Pagoda Plaza? That is a party in itself right there. The first hour and a half of this show on Carb Day in Pagoda Plaza may be the best 90 minutes of this show the entire year. Because if you listen carefully, if you listen closely, you will hear a lot of cuss words uttered in the background that James simply put cannot dump everyone. And you'll just hear it. And that's just the way that it goes. You'll hear it.
We just have to go completely silent for that first 90 if we had to.
In the background, there'll be some conversations with multiple F-bombs dropped, and James just can't do much about it. May 23rd is Carb Day 2025. That was the All-American Rejects, along with Bret Michaels, your co-headliners, and the party is on. And a shout-out to Braun's Funtime Campers in Austin, providing the RV for this show, for me, the entire weekend, for us, I should say. We're going to be staked out in the Coke lot where you're going to need a bracelet. I beg, borrow, I don't say steal, beg or borrow. Make sure you get a Coke lot bracelet. I called Doug Bowles last night, Speedway Prez and IndyCar Prez, and said, I need about 1,000. And I need a Corvette because I'm going all the way douche. I'm full-scale douchery here. So I need the Corvette for the weekend. I need about 1,000 Coke lot wristbands. Can we do that stat? Of course, he has nothing going on and was really cool in taking my call last night on my way to Hoop. But make sure you're a part of this. At the very least, Carb Day 2025, your ticket's available right now, ims.com. It is that simple. And what that does is springboard us into what is going to be a fantastic weekend. And I did see, at least going into qualifying weekend next weekend, did you see we're going to be approaching the 90s? Now, that's my weather, everybody. And just like it around here, you get up this morning, if you're like me and you got up at 5 a.m., 45 degrees. And then later on this week, they're suggesting it will be approaching 90. That is living around here, friends. And I dig it. Game 3 later on tonight. Cavaliers, Pacers. Pacers up 2-0. Best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals. It would be fantastic if the Pacers were to cash this one in. And you're basically snuffing out everything here for the Cavaliers, especially if they have everybody back, as the reports suggest they will, with Garland, Mobley, and Hunter later on tonight. I mean, you put to bed, you put to rest a lot of these ridiculous storylines that we battle against all the time around here. However, if you lose Game 3, those reemerge, and you got 48 hours to soak in them. You don't want that. They don't want that. Do the job tonight. Crowd's going to be behind you. Get off to a great start. Get that pace going. Score fluidly as you did in game number 1. I mean, really, that's how they got things going in game number 1, if you remember Sunday night, last Sunday night in particular. Little something like that. I know that they shot 53% from the floor or whatever. Get that pace going, score, produce, utilize the crowd, wear them down, especially 3. And one guy in Garland hadn't played in a while. 7:30 tip time later on tonight. You can see it on ESPN. You can hear it here on The Fan. 239-1070 is the number. And Tony checks in here on this Friday. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hey. Thanks, JMV.
Hello,
just
Tony.
Really
how are you, sir?
Yes. Just fine. Just really pumped up about tonight's game.
Get pumped up. Are you going?
No, but I'm going to watch it. I mean, watching it the other night was just unbelievable.
You can yell in front of your television, whatever you want. So that's good.
Yeah. But, one of the things I love about this team is that they remind you so much of Butler team from 09 and 10, that they just play good team basketball. You don't just have that one outstanding player that everybody has to gang up on. And you got the entire team playing. And I'm especially excited because about 2 months ago, I I put down a futures bet.
Well, tell us all about it.
4,100.
Oh man.
So it's looking better right now anyway.
How about that right there? Well, you got to keep us updated on what the hell happens with this. This is a big deal.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a big deal. Hey, and I heard you talk about Robin Miller.
Yes.
A while ago. Sometime I'll share a funny story with you about it. I went to high school with Robin. I played basketball. He was the manager on our team. And Robin, if you knew him at all, you knew one thing.
At Southport High School, Tony?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and if you knew Robin at all, you knew that one thing was consistent throughout his entire life. He had a big mouth.
He did. There's no doubt about that.
It would frequently get us in trouble. But anyway.
Nah, I miss him every single day. There are two people that I miss almost every single day around here. Robin Miller and DJ Indiana Jones. And you probably don't know him, but they played such a significant role in my life around here. Gave me so much help. We're such good friends in doing what I do right now. And we lost them both so early, and it bums me out. They're two people I think about every single day.
Yeah, I mean, at my age, that's young middle age.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I try to look at it.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
I mean, listen, I plan on being 155 before I cash out here, Tony. Let me tell you that. So, yeah. I'm going to be here forever. I'm going to have this show until I'm 130. So, yes, I'm planning on being here for a while.
You mentioned the Why Not T-shirts you had?
Yeah.
Where did you get that? I need to get me one.
The shop in Broad Ripple and Carmel, the shop that we talk about all the time, Brian Kelly and the Brick Shirt House, Alex, Jake from Aquarian Company came up with that particular line, and they put it on a T-shirt that looks very much like the FloJo uniforms of the past as far as the letters are concerned. So it is an awesome shirt. There's one right here, and you can get that in the shop at Broad Ripple and Carmel.
Of course, you realize Tony spelled backwards. Why not?
I'm going to take your word for it, Tony. Buddy, thanks for sharing. I appreciate it, Tony.
Why not the Pacers this year?
Why not the Pacers? Tony, thanks for the call, man. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Yeah, I miss Robin Miller and DJ Indiana Jones every day. So, you ask about the Pacers bigs, and there was this, dude from Kentucky that just crawled up my rear end constantly early in the season about Miles. And, I feel good now. What are we like? He's 10 years in. I'm probably 8 years in and constantly defending and supporting him against stupidity and dumbassery and just people that wouldn't know basketball from nothing. And now it seems like most everybody is on board. Now, he pinned that article in the Players Tribune yesterday, got a lot of run, rightly so, well written. But this guy would constantly crawl up my rear about, well, he got to get Miles on a low post. He's got to get on a low post this, like we're playing in 1994. Getting a low post and put Paul Mokeski down there with him. No. So there's room in the low post for one. And that one has been significant because at least halfway through the season, he had the eighth most, low post touches in the NBA, and that's Pascal Siakam. Got to get more, by the way, from him later on tonight. 8 shot attempts. The 12 points is one thing, but 8 shot attempts? Come on now. That said, this is from Evan Sidery, the best double big lineups in the NBA. Sengun and Adams for Houston, and this is a net rating of plus 20.6. Miles and Siakam is plus 20.4. Mitchell Robinson, Karl Anthony Towns, plus 14.3. And I guess, this is kind of significant in what they're trying to do in OKC with Hartenstein and with Holmgren, plus 8.0 net rating. And you can kind of see that going on right now in the postseason even more. And I will give the guy that climbed up my rear constantly in the early portion of the season some credit. We have seen certainly Miles a lot more in the postseason, and it's noticeable because he is getting matched up on these switches so often against a much smaller player. You got to utilize it. You don't have to be the post moves of Kevin McHale or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You just have to be bigger than somebody 6'5" that's trying to check you in the pivot. But Turner and Siakam at 20.4 as a net rating, according to Evan Sidery right there. Assuming a lot of you would live with that. Music Mac is a friend of the show. Joins us now. Hello, Mac.
Hey, John, hold on. I'm going to take you off speakerphone.
Good. That's okay, man. It's good to hear from you, Mac. What's up, buddy? You all right?
Can you hear me okay?
I got you, man.
Hey, I was really bummed out because I had to work on Monday. You couldn't attend that Cinco de Mayo event.
Yes.
But I went to the Alamo Draft House on Tuesday, met John Carlos. He couldn't have been nicer.
Yeah.
Took me on a tour of the entire place. I told him I was coming back with my girlfriend Rita. He goes, "Here, give me a second." He got me a coupon for free popcorn.
Awesome, man. He's a great dude. That's a great spot. I love what they're doing. I love what they're doing over there off of Georgetown Road with that place too.
Oh, I mean, the whole place is beautiful. He toured the whole place, took me down the hallway, made a point of showing me that you could see inside the kitchen, the fresh food every day. That place is incredible.
Yeah, it is. No, you're
That's
absolutely
exactly what-
right. Mac, thank you for doing that with Rita as well. That's awesome.
That's exactly what the West Side needed.
No question. And you just want it to grow. It is a great place to go. Even if you didn't make it for Cinco de Mayo on Monday with us, know that that is there, and that is multidimensional to go with you and the family or a date or whatever. It is a great place.
Oh, absolutely. He showed me all the theaters, showed me the bar, showed me everything. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah, he is. Man, that's good to hear. Mac, anything else, buddy?
Go Pacers. All these pieces are fitting together, and Carlisle's doing a phenomenal job of using all the pieces properly, and let's get another win tonight.
Music Mac right there with us, buddy. It's great to hear from you. Saw you couldn't make it out on Monday, but great to hear from Music Mac right there. Giancarlo and the gang at Alamo Draft House Cinema. That is right between Lafayette Road and 38th Street off of Georgetown Road. As I mentioned on Monday, it is the old Cub food store. And the reason why I know that is because my grandma back in the day took me there about 9 million times. But it is unique. And I'd mentioned this. If you remember downtown, they had a place in the day called the Hollywood Bar and Filmworks. And this is like that place roided up to times 100. Yeah, you can check it out. You and a date, you and your significant other, you and the family, just you, the Hot Rod Sports Bar Lounge. Hey, great food. I mean, everything for you, too. Yeah, first run films. It's great. Alamo Draft House Cinema. We had a great time going back on Cinco de Mayo Monday out of the West Side. Thank you, Music Mac. More calls on the other side, me and you, as we get closer to game number 3, Eastern Conference semifinals with the Cavaliers and the Pacers tonight. That tips at 7:30. Coverage here on The Fan. Pat Boylan's going to get you underway with the pregame show coming up at 7 o'clock. This is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, Hamilton. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, qualifying for the Sancio Grand Prix is going on right now. The track dude, top of the 4 o'clock hour from the IMS Radio Network, talked that up, and a lot of other great stuff. I love the track dude, Mako Young. How about qualifying next weekend for the big race, for the greatest spectacle in racing, number 9 at 239-1070. If you would like tickets to qualifying for next weekend right here, number 9, you're going to get them. From me to you, because we're friends, we're buddies, we're pals, we're amigos. And because they tell me to, all that. Number 9 at 239-1070. J-Law writes this. It's funny. Actually, he wrote this and then sent me a clip from our good friend Chad Buchanan, Pacers general manager, as a part of the Jim Rome show. And this is, J-Law, actually, you sent me this. This is a quote. And by the way, J-Law, shout out to your weight loss. J-Law is on the path now, down about 50, I think. Well done, buddy. But J-Law talks about this being the Pacer way, and this particular quote is something that he's used on this show a number of times. Quote, "We can't offer the beach. We can't offer nightlife." Well, hold on. He should say we can't offer nightlife unless you go out and hang out with JMV, and then you have nightlife. We can't offer great weather in January. But if you love basketball, and goodness gracious, we do, especially if you're me, and that's what you're really about at your core, this is a great spot to be for players. That is a quote that he used on the Jim Rome show. That is a quote that he has utilized a couple of different times on this one. Now, part of that is because he knows how much I love basketball. But he also knows how much the state loves basketball. And when you're propping up your product, you don't have the beach. You know, you don't have mountains. Well, you do have a beach. You can go down to Lake Monroe to Fairfax or to Paintown. But no, you don't have the beach and the ocean or the Gulf or anything like that. But we love basketball here. And I'm sorry, I know that everybody loves the NFL and everybody loves football and college football, and nothing wrong with it. But, man, to our core, just like he mentions, we love hoop. I told Kevin Bowen back on Wednesday, you come sliding out of the birth canal, good to go. Loving hoop around here. That's just the way that it is. Completely agree with that, though. Yeah, and I saw the Kenny Atkinson stuff. I just kind of take it this way. I take it is that most coaches end up utilizing this ploy, especially if you're down 0-2, and especially if you have a couple of players injured in what you would suggest would be overly physical, basketball-related bull crap. And I think on both instances, there was no call made, right? So Miles, so-called in the landing space of Mobley, injured ankle, and then Mather in the block of Hunter, and that block that Cleveland challenged got upheld, the call on the floor. So, yeah, he's whining and crying about that. I would agree. It does wear you out. And I like the counter move that was taken by Rick Carlisle saying, hey, we're not going to cry about anything. We're just going to go out and play. We're not trying to cry and get some calls here. So that's the countermeasure that you make right here. Hey, no crying about Corey. We're not doing that. We're just going out and playing. So I think it's Mark Davis and crew coming up later on tonight. So, yeah, they're not crying about it. They're just going out and playing. The other team's the one crying about it constantly. Got to be the loudest of the season. Got to be the most excited of the season because this is going to be the toughest game of the season. Easily. We'll get into that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. I have carved out a lot of space, beginning with Bill for you. Game 3 Cavaliers, Pacers, Sancio Grand Prix. We can do a little baseball if you want to. I'll run down where the Reds are on the road to, likely to lose, where the Cubs are playing, and the Cardinals, all your local favorites as well, and whatever else is going on this weekend, including the Fever. Final preseason game, too, for Caitlin Clark and company. That's coming up tomorrow. Loaded up and ready to go, but obviously the focus, Game 3. Cavaliers and Pacers. You did have news from the Colts today regarding rookies being signed, one being the 14th overall selection, Tyler Warren, the tight end of Penn State. That discussion also coming up. Don't go anywhere. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, where I'm waving at you right now. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Friend, he's my pal. He's my homeboy, my rotten soldier. He's my sweet cheese, my good time boy.
93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
All right, you got a couple of game threes later on tonight. Most importantly, right here, downtown Indy, Cambridge Fieldhouse. Good Lord, I love this song right here. Is that Wham Bam Shang-a-Lang?
It is.
Oh, man. You get moved on that. How do you not love this song? I think this is more AM Gold than it is known as Yacht Rock right here, but I play it on Saturday nights occasionally. You like this, don't you?
I do like this song.
Silver is the group, right? From 1976?
You are correct.
Yeah. Good, that's a good song right there. 7:30 tip time tonight. Pacers up 2-0, best of 7, and it looks as if we're going to find out concretely, I'm assuming here in the next 20 minutes or so, regarding Garland, Mobley, and watch for that, James, too, in case I end up missing something that comes down as breaking news. But regarding Garland, Mobley, and Hunter, and all signs earlier today were pointing to that, them participating. So we shall go from there. And expect that tonight for game number 3. Man, what an opportunity the Pacers have. You cannot let down on this opportunity. Had a great weekend. You're going to have a crowd that's absolutely beside itself. No letting down. Actually, you have a pair of game 3s later on tonight, too. Out west, if you've been keeping track of the Thunder and the Nuggets. Yeah, game 1 in OKC ended oddly because it was a Gordon 3 and the Nuggets win. You had Jokic go for 42 and 22. And then you get a game 2 follow-up that was even more awkward, given the fact that the Thunder put up 87 in the first half and made the Nuggets look like not even the JV. They may have looked like the freshman team. Anybody ever play on the C team? That may have been a C team. It was not good. Now, we'll see if Denver is in it for a long haul right here. Tied at a game apiece. However, the Nuggets right now have home court. 10 o'clock tonight for that game number 3 in Denver. Again, Cavaliers, Pacers, 7:30. 7 o'clock, your coverage begins here with Pat Boylan has the pregame show on the Fan. All right, I've got a lot of time for you. I'll run over everything, not literally, but figuratively here, talking about it. And we got Grand Prix qualifying going on as well. The Sancio Grand Prix tomorrow. The final preseason game for the Fever is tomorrow. And we're off and running into what is going to be a fantastic month of May, qualifying next weekend. Greatest spectacle in racing coming up 2 weeks from this weekend. And what is going to be the ultimate party and the ultimate JMV takeover from the Coke Lot, thanks to Braun's Funtime Campers and Austin, coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow. And again, this reminder, you have to have a Coke Lot bracelet. So I don't know how you get them. I just know I called Doug Bowles and I said, my man, I need about 1,000. He said, yeah, sure. So get you one and join me. Just don't be using my can, though, James. We can't have anybody getting in the door and using the can. That'd be some special treatment right there.
You have to get your security guard posted up right outside the can.
He'd be standing here all flexed. Yeah, I'm sorry. You are in the porta pot. Coke Lot, bracelets, me and you. I think DJ Skids. We've got to get DJ Skids a Coke Lot bracelet too. So I need 1,000 Coke Lot bracelets. I need the Corvette for the weekend coming up so I can completely douche out. This is where I'm going right now. I'm just going to live in a world of douchery. I need the Corvette and 1,000 Coke Lot wristbands and about 10 snake pit passes.
So you got a lot of accessories.
I got a lot on my
going
mind right here, James.
Yeah.
I mean, holy hell, how can I do all this? You were just trying to explain me Jeff Rickard live on the West Side. I couldn't even compute that a moment ago. Wait a minute. Where? What? Who? Jeff will join us from the morning show, actually in the afternoon from Crawfordsville Road a little bit later on this hour, so be ready for that. Meantime, 239-1070. This 30-minute period is all for you and me to talk about, I'm sure, game number 3 tonight with the Cavaliers and the Pacers. And Bill is up next today. Hello, Billy. How are you?
Hey, JMV, I'm doing great. Man, this is what it's all about. Friday night professional basketball playoff hooping.
Yes, you're right.
Downtown.
This is what it's all about, Billy. You could not have said it better. Well done.
And the weather is going to be outstanding. And
Yes.
this is the atmosphere that was looked at and everything when they started developing downtown and everything. And
If only somebody would hop on a John Deere. I guess it's not necessary. You're playing Cleveland, but all that's missing is a series against the Knicks and somebody sitting on a John Deere in front of Market Square Arena. Do you remember that back in the 90s? That was a hell of a moment.
Oh, I remember that. I definitely remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, those were times gone by. But I still think that Jared Allen is the key. When Halliburton hit the winning shot and everything, they'd run the high pick and roll with Miles and isolated Halliburton on Allen. And Allen was trying to drop back and was really indecisive, and Halliburton hit another big shot. And I just don't think that Cleveland is able to defend the pick and roll, especially when you got Miles out there participating in the pick and roll. So I think that's going to be one of the first 2 or 3 plays that the Pacers run from the set offense. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. The player that I think is going to come up big tonight, though, is going to be Nimhard, and I never count out McConnell and Toppin.
Yeah. I'm going to see, Billy, how they handle, again, you had all that pressure that really discombobulated things at the beginning of game number 2 against Halliburton. We knew that they were going to have to make him uncomfortable, but it was just so ironic that Kenny Atkinson's team played Halliburton as what he complained about after game 1 and then before game number 2, all the clutching and grabbing and holding. That's exactly what the Cavaliers did. And, that worked. That did get them out of what they normally did. So the Pacers have to find a way, I think, to get past that, if that is the choice defensively of the Cavaliers to start the game tonight.
And when the second unit comes in, if any part of the Cleveland unit that's on the floor is getting a little gas and our second unit shows up, it's going to be a long quarter. So the second unit has been so important to us all year. So I'm getting ready to go up and watch it at the Mutt, man. So
well, you got to tell Mike Manley I said hello. That's a hell of a spot to go and watch that game tonight. Mike Manley and company. You going to have some food, a little shepherd's pie tonight? Is that what you're thinking on a Friday night?
Going to have some shepherd's pie and a small meat lover's pizza to go, which I'll probably eat when I drink my coffee in the morning.
That is well done, buddy. So shout out to Mike Manley. Tell him we said hello at 10th and Shadeland, Manley's Irish Mutt.
I will do that. Talk to you later, man.
That's Billy right there. Thank you very much. I love Manley's Irish Mud. Mike Manley's the best. Richard writes this, JMV, all those things you're listing, what are you making the 12 Days of Indy 500 song? Well, hold on. Is there such a thing? Richard, by the way, is the one that came up with the JMV song that sounds like Nickelback, which I love. I play it all the time. You guys still have that? That's awesome. We got to use that as a reentry if that's still in the system here. I know I play it during the JMV takeover sometimes.
I've actually heard, like I was in a liquor store or something, and they had the takeover on, and I heard you playing that.
You go, wait a minute, is that Nickelback or JMV song right there? I love it, though. It is awesome. But Richard came up with that, and people absolutely love it. Got a lot of mention of Greene County in it. Outstanding, buddy. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming that there's probably already some sort of Bob and Tom song out there, the 12 Days of the Indy 500, at least somewhere, right? Something maybe I don't recollect right now. And by the way, shout out to our guy Mike Manley, who is listening right now, too, of Manley's Irish Mutt, 10th and Shadeland. A great place on the east side to check out the game coming up later on tonight, or really do anything later on tonight over there. Jim McCann, Southern California. Besides the extraordinary fabulousness, is there a theme for this week's JMV Takeover? We are going to go neck deep into the 1980s coming up tomorrow night, my brother from Southern California. And by the way, Jim McKenna, I hope you're coming in for race weekend. Because one of those 1,000 Coke-Lot wristbands I've requested from Doug Bowles, I want to give you one too. Nick chimes in with this. I think you hit the nail on the head here. Get Pascal going early. We win. Let's get it done. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Nick. Listen, I think even more, I'm not going to suggest shocking. So 12 points with Siakam and go, but only 8 shot attempts. Only 8. And we talked to Dustin DePurek a little bit earlier, and he said, well, it does come down to match. No. Elite level guy, it comes down to matchups. It's one thing. He's the guy that you count on for high volume shot making. And the only way to get high volume shot making is if you have high volume shot taking. You cannot have a disappearing act like that. Maybe you got away with it in game 2, which obviously did, but against other teams, that is not good, and you do not want that coming up later on tonight. All right, 239-1070. Next on the list is our friend Jeremiah. Jeremiah, welcome to the show.
JMV, thanks for taking my call.
How are things out in Pittsburgh today?
My brother, we're sitting out on the patio right now, enjoying sunny 70 weather. It's phenomenal.
Are you out there with the lovely Melissa right now?
As a matter of fact, she's sitting next to me, and I want to wish her a happy Mother's Day, along with my mother, a happy Mother's Day weekend.
Hey, you are one handsome-looking dude. We all know that. But
I appreciate my brother.
Do you realize?
I'm probably outkicking my coverage.
Do you realize every day how far you outkick your coverage? Seriously.
Yes, sir. Every day. Every morning I wake up. I wake up.
You kicked a 150-yard punt right there. Well done. Good job.
That is exactly right. I'm gonna go ahead and make my early request on the JMV takeover for some AC/DC big balls, because that's what I hear all week.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That played last week too. Big Balls played. As you know, I have a vivid memory. I remember everybody that requests everything, and Big Balls played last week. So I don't know why that is. Like, James gave me things. Jeff Rickard's going to call in a bit, and he goes, hey, we got to do this and we got to do that. It was really only like 2 things. I couldn't remember a damn thing he said 3 seconds later, but I can remember what everybody requests last Saturday night, which is really weird. I don't know what's happening.
That is right. Also, you got to remember, when you're at the Coke Lot, it's not the Von Mar that you're staying, that facility is really nice. It's not the Von Mar, and you're not in the middle of the country, so you can't just go stepping out of the back and, letting things fly, because that's what happens in the Coke Lot. You don't want to be on the news for anything like that.
Yeah, well, exactly. And like I said, I'll probably keep my bathroom shenanigans in my bathroom in there for real. I was in a bathroom the other day. No, I'll tell you where it was. So the Von Mar bathroom is the greatest of all time. It's like greater than my house. I think I would live in the Von Mar bathroom if they let me do it. I would rent it. But have you ever been to the bathroom at the Capitol Grill, or inside the bathroom inside the Conrad right next to the Capitol Grill? That bathroom rivals Von Mar.
Really?
Let me tell you.
I'm not that bougie enough to get into.
Well, I wasn't either. I was just like a tag along. Like, I just walked in, and they quickly realized what they were dealing with and said, hey, man, can you go ahead and mosey your old Milwaukee ass out of here? And I said, okay, I will. But no, I get to the bathroom. I went in there, and I thought, wow, that rivals Von Mar as one of the greatest bathrooms I've ever been in. It was great.
That is sweet. Hey, I wanted to touch base, though. What do we got to do? I mean, I know we're the quote-unquote small market and whatnot, but 2-point underdog again at home? I mean,
yeah.
When do the Pacers get any recognition?
Well, no. And I think this is what it is, Jeremiah. Vegas believes that the odds are these 3 guys are coming back, and they believe that with these guys, Cleveland is better. And I think that's the dynamic at work and how close they made things, razor thin in game number 2 using their backups. And I think, that goes to show you exactly their main characters are going to be back for this game coming up later on tonight, maybe more than anything else. And honestly, I can kind of get that. That's why I think it's so important for the Pacers to put them down and nearly out in game number 3 because you don't want to go back to Cleveland, for one, but you don't want them hanging around. You want to snuff out any form of life that they have, and you have a tremendous opportunity to do it later on tonight. I'm just going to be incredibly disappointed if they don't live up to that this evening, because then you open, I think, a Pandora's box of a lot of things that Pacer fans don't want to hear or even think about as we go further in this series.
No, I agree. And I think tonight and Sunday night is definitely, I'm locking it in. Both games are must win. I'm definitely saying must win, and I think they can pull it off.
No, I'm right there with you. I just got a thank you from the lovely Melissa, by the way, too.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're out kicking. Now, did you know that she's texting me while you're talking?
No, but she's on one end of the patio table, and I'm on the other.
There it is, man. You guys enjoy the game in Pittsburgh. Good to hear from you.
Appreciate it, my brother.
You got it. Listen, I would agree. This is important for a variety of reasons later on tonight. So you got to come out like you should come out. And that's strong. And you want to be able to put an emphasis on what you do best. And we have seen that recently. We saw that in game number 1. Hey, listen, I know everybody remembers game number 2 and the ending, and it was fantastic. But I would rather this team tonight relate to what you saw in game 1 on Sunday night. That was Pacer basketball. Like, I'll give you this. Hanging in and then getting it done late. We do know that to be Pacer basketball because this group does not give up. However, the Pacer basketball at the highest level, I think we can all make this argument and it be true, has yet to be played. And at its highest level, the closest we have seen was on Sunday night in game number 1. That's how I want this team to play tonight. Is as they did back on Sunday night in game number 1. Shout out to David George. D. George asked me, I don't know where I'm sitting tonight. That's a hell of a question. I'm going to go down there and go, hey, where am I sitting? I have no idea. I don't know if I'm behind you, I'll yell at you, though. I don't know. I am going with the awesome Brent Holverson Heaven Hill Distillery and the awesome Michelle Kiefer here from the station. So I don't know where we're sitting. And Michelle said, hey, you want me to send the ticket? And I go, no, just meet you guys at Coach's because I'll probably lose it or send it to some random person accidentally. Who knows? But I cannot wait to get there. And before we get there, about 6:05 or so, I'm going to go ahead and log off here about 6:05. We're going to re-rack Spiro Ditas from earlier this week from TNT after that game number 2. And then I'm going to bail and head down to Coach's Tavern, and we're all going to have a couple and get primed and ready. This is like, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, going to Coach's with me before the game's like our very own warm-up line or layup line. That's how we're going to warm up. You know, the players are doing stretches and using bands and taking jumpers and layup lines and that and stretching, and we're going to be drinking. That's our layup line to get set. Here's one thing that I do have a little bit of concern about. And it has nothing to do with the play on the floor. It just has something to do with what I recollect as history with me. And it seems like sometimes when we truly go over the top because something is so important, as it clearly is with this. Yeah, I've mentioned this before. The last thing you want to be is disappointed out of it. So hopefully that's not the case, because we have spent at least 95% of this day talking about this matchup, talking about the return of the 3 Cleveland Cavaliers that is expected coming up later on tonight. All of that and then some. And it seems like there are some times in the past you go, oh, man, I talked about this so much, and yeah, that's a bummer. Hopefully that is not the case coming up later on tonight. Hey, JMV, I know you've been a big supporter of Miles Turner over his career. Did you happen to read what he had written in the Players Tribune yesterday? I did. It was very good. And honestly, I would expect nothing less from him. That's Miles in a nutshell right there. And I have been, through thick and thin, a consistent supporter, and I think that all kind of bears out to be true now. Which I would guess is an incredibly good thing, is it not? But no, to get back to your question, did I see it? Yes, and I thought it was, and again, as expected, incredibly well written. Without a doubt. You got Game 3 coming up later on tonight. Again, 7:30 tip time right here. You got 2 Game 3s, East and West, Cavs, Pacers, Thunder, Nuggets. Now out West in that Western Conference semifinal. That game between the Thunder and the Nuggets, that series, I should say, tied at a game apiece. 10 o'clock is the tip tonight. Tomorrow, 3:30, Celtics and the Knicks. And the Knicks are going to try to do the same thing the Pacers tried to do later on tonight against the Cavaliers. That has put a stranglehold on their Eastern Conference semifinal. They're up 2-0 after winning on the road twice. Knicks-Celtics tomorrow afternoon for your enjoyment at 3:30. 8:30 tomorrow night for the Warriors. And I'm sure if you're ABC, you're going, well, you kind of expected Steph Curry. You're not going to get him. According to Shams, Curry could possibly return with that strained calf, maybe for Game 6. That was Shams earlier today. 8:30 between the Timberwolves and the Warriors. Out West, that semifinal is even at a game apiece. That's coming up for you tomorrow, of course. The Pacers back at it, Game 4 at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Hopefully for Pacer fans and the Pacers themselves, that's a closeout opportunity at 8 o'clock coming up on Sunday night. The baseball schedule, we'll go over that, get some more of your calls at 239-1070. Final 30 before we get to the re-rack of Spiro Ditas earlier this week, and then the Colts' last word coming up later on tonight, followed by the Pacers and their pregame show, 7 o'clock. No reason for you to go absolutely anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
With JMV.
I am the cream, yeah. The cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. Spiro Ditas, our re-rack coming up a little bit after 6. Colts' last words got you. Pacers pregame 7:30 the tip. Game 3 with the Cavaliers and the Pacers tonight. Well done, James. Drivers advancing to the Firestone Fast 6 today out at the road course at IMS include Alex Palou, Graham Rahal, Devin DeFrancesco, Joseph Newgarden, Scott McLaughlin, and I'll leave one out because I'll bring him in right now, a co-host on the morning show, friend of this show at Advanced Auto Parts off of Crawfordsville Road right now. We could also say he's a part of the Fast 6 as well. Jeff Rickard is with us. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
JMV, not nearly as fast as I used to be, but having more fun than ever. How about that?
I bet you could pedal your bike around that road course fairly quickly. I bet.
I have to try that sometime. Doug Bowles and I need to get out there for a ride together.
And no doubt. What you doing out in Speedway today, buddy?
I'm looking at Advanced Auto Parts here at 5636 Crawfordsville Road. They got tacos, they got hot dogs, but more importantly, porch party kits. Come on out here, and there's several Advanced Auto Parts stores you can get these porch party kits, but at this one today, some of them have a golden ticket in there for even enhanced prizes for not just the Grand Prix tomorrow, but the entire month of May. So you want to make sure that your home is race day ready. And today we're going to be here till 8 o'clock tonight, the Advanced Auto Parts Crawfordsville Road location in Speedway, broadcasting. And like I said, the porch party kits might have some of them are going to include the golden ticket to win amazing prizes like IndyCar hats and a replica helmet, IMS seat cushions, checkered flags, autographed by the full field of IndyCar drivers. Also during the event, we've got an IndyCar simulator you can try out if you want to get some speed on, John. How about that?
Listen, I love it, and I'm a big fan of the porch parties. That is a long-standing Speedway tradition, Jeff.
It is a huge tradition. Of course, what do people do when they're at the porch party, John? They listen to the race.
Yes.
On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
That's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. That's Jeff Rickard. He is out at Speedway, Advanced Auto Parts. And we're going to check in with you again before the top of the hour, correct?
I will be here all evening long. Well, that's not true because I am going to skedaddle over to the field house in a little while.
Well, I will see you down there. You got any thoughts on tonight's game in closing here?
I was jumping all over that -3 earlier this morning, and I know that the Cavaliers are going to come out and play desperate. But, John, this field house has been so loud during this playoffs, and I think it's going to be the loudest tonight.
Yep. Jeff, you're going to get loud at Advanced Auto Parts where he is right now. Maybe we can get Doug Bowles to let you pedal your Huffy around the road course one of these days.
He and I have talked about it. We just have never hooked up to do it, so it'll be a lot of fun. But, yeah, come get your porch party kits here at 5636 Crawfordsville Road, Advanced Auto Parts. A couple of other locations you can find some of those, but the golden tickets can only be found at this location. So keep that in mind today.
Well done, man. We'll check in again, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Jeff Rickard, Crawfordsville Road, Speedway location, Advanced Auto Parts right there. A part of the afternoon show with Jeff and me. We'll do that again coming up before the top of the hour. Now, this is a 7:30 tip time, so I thought maybe around 5:20 we would learn more, and I am scouring right now social media for any concrete evidence that all three, again, the expectation is all three will play. That is the expectation. But we shall see. And waiting for that concrete evidence to come in. Meantime, 239-1070, if you guys want to jump on board, you certainly can. We'd love to have you here before the top of the hour. We end up bailing, get you set for game number 3 coming up later on tonight. Again, all that and then some here, too. I mentioned you do have some MLB later on tonight, including the Cardinals on the National 6:45 from D.C. this evening. Cubs on the road, 22-16. The Cubs and the Mets. Mets, 24-14. A great start in Queens for the Mets. That's at 7:10. Reds 19-20, and the end result in Atlanta was a brutality yesterday. On the road, 18-18, Houston coming up later on tonight at 8:10. So your local teams in action right there, including the Cardinals, Cubs, and the Reds. Yeah, the Reds gave you reason to really get excited, 2 weeks ago? And then in true Reds fashion, they are ready, willing, and able to pull the rug right out from under you immediately. As of 5:30, the players are still listed as questionable, is what I'm getting from the field house right now. As of 5:30. Hopefully we have something a little bit more concrete before a bail. That is my hope. I don't know if that is going to happen, but that is definitely the hope. If you're heading down to the field house tonight, it is a gold out, the Boom Baby gold out T-shirts, which I absolutely approve. Outstanding. And as they always say, put them on. You absolutely have to put them on. Wholeheartedly agree on that. Got to be rocking them. Yeah, JMV. Yeah, as far as the Pacers are concerned, later on tonight, I heard you talking about Pascal Siakam, his level of importance. Why did you think it was he only got 8 shot attempts in game number 2? Now, one thing is they still won him. That's good. But 12 points notwithstanding, 8 shot attempts will not get it done. You have to have more than that from him. And let me tell you this. Had they not won in the fashion in which they did, that would have been the biggest storyline of what the hell, of what in the world happened. The biggest storyline would have been that of what was a disappearance in game 2 of Pascal Siakam. And I think as we escalate the stakes and a chance to really put a stranglehold on this series with a win later on tonight, and even if you're looking further down the road, which I don't advise you to do, but for the sake of this argument and this take, we will do it right now, is he's got to be at the highest of levels offensively every single night. And you could say that about mostly everybody, certainly in the starting lineup. And I know that guys like Neesmith, we have seen them pick up things a great deal. Nembhard has had that type of game so far. Off the bench, Mathurin had 19 in game number 2. But Siakam is an elite level paid and expected and elite level playing player. That would have definitely been something we would be talking about today had the Pacers not gotten that buried 3 from Tyrese Halliburton and one in the fashion in which they did. And I'm glad, for example, that we are not talking about that today. But that has to be a change. And I would expect it to be a change. It's funny, we were talking to Dustin DePurak a little bit earlier, and he mentioned, you kind of came down to matchups in game number 2. Yeah, I don't know if it was so much the matchups. It was just kind of weird. Now, he may be right about some of it. And again, they won, so it's not the biggest of deals any longer. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was much about matchups as it was I thought you take Chris Finch, for example, the head coach of the Timberwolves. Remember what he said about Anthony Edwards after game 1, what he has to be at that level? I think and people took that as, calling out your star. Well, nobody's calling out Pascal Siakam, but I think you could take Chris Finch's words and you could put that and apply that to a player like Siakam on the Pacers because they are a team and they get it done as a team, but he is vital in that set. Again, to me, more of the focus should be in how they played in game number 1. The thrill was in game number 2. But game number 1 is how you want to see them, and that's even magnified to a higher degree tonight, given the home hardwood and the home crowd. That's the way I want to see them come out tonight, the way they came out in game number 1, because we talked about this. That wasn't a steal. They had ownership of that. They played, other than basically 5 minutes in the third, as well as you could ask on the road. even with a team without Darius Garland as they were. That's the Pacer team I want to see come out here tonight. I think that's essential from the beginning. And as I mentioned at the outset of the show, you get 3 guys that are banged up, 3 guys that are coming back from injury. One guy that supposedly is going to be coming back from a longer-standing injury, the toe. And those injuries tend to go away when you're playing well, feeling good, either individually or with your team. Those things hurt worse. There's more discomfort when things aren't going well. That's how you make it uncomfortable for those 3 players with their injuries is you wreck the game early with an influence like you had, like we witnessed back on Sunday night in game number 1. Jennifer writes this, JMV, I look for them to get Siakam involved early in the game and hope he doesn't keep just chucking up those threes at the beginning. Get him some mismatches. See, I thought, too, Jennifer, the mismatches were there. Ray and Indy says, let's just call it right now, JMV. It's a Spicy P Game 3 takeover. Yeah, and that's what, I go back to game number 2, and I saw a lot of those matchups that were favorable for him. It just kind of was weird. Worked out great, but more like game number 1 for sure. Quick break. We'll come back. We'll close it out with you, Spiro Ditas, from earlier this week. He was the TNT play-by-play man for games 1 and 2, and certainly in game 2 you had that terrific ending. We'll talk to Spiro and re-rack that coming up here in the 6 o'clock hour. I'll get down to Coach's Tavern, meet you on the way to the Fieldhouse coming up at about 6:05. You get the last word with the Colts. And again, Tyler Warren is in, signed the 14th overall selection. He is in, working out with the Colts, with the other rookies as well. That took place earlier today with a little minicamp going on over there with the rookies for the Colts happening earlier today on West 56. So, yeah, their franchise tight end is inked, number 14 overall out of Penn State, Tyler Warren. Quick break. We'll return after this. Me and you at 239-1070, the AAA Membership Lounge. It's YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
Here's Johnny. Don't. David Letterman.
Hi, David. I'm Grandpa.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Your Harris Hoosier Park race of the day. Chad Bach. The incredibly handsome and talented Chad Bach. Chad and Stacy from Madison County. The winner. 50-50 betting and dining. Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. Trying to think. $3 on a $2 bet was the payout there. The $2 exacta was $5.80. 50-cent trifecta went for $4.60. But the payoff for Chad, and I'm assuming Stacy as well in Madison County, which is cool because that's where Harris Hoosier Park is located, 50-50 in betting and dining and standard bred racing going on through November at Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. That is in Anderson, and that is the end of the week with the Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day. Thank you guys for playing. In sad news, we just learned this within the last hour. Former Indiana basketball team physician Dr. Bradford Bamba has passed away at the age of 89. That according to the Bloomington Herald-Times. A longtime family friend confirmed his death to the Herald-Times this afternoon. They write, Bamba entered hospice in recent months while battling various serious health conditions. Of course, Bamba had a private practice in the area for decades, and he basically had been a team physician down at IU from back to the 60s. A long period of time. Now, his grandson, James, a former Bloomington South standout who is currently a member of the IU football team, posted about his grandfather's passing earlier this afternoon on Facebook. Again, this is according to the Bloomington Herald-Times. Now, also his tenure at IU became the subject of a federal class action lawsuit filed against the school by former players Harris Mujinovic and Charlie Miller, alleging he performed medically unnecessary examinations. And in an 874-page report released back on May the 1st, the law firm that made the decision on this concluded that Bamba didn't act in bad faith or improperly. And that came out again the week before, actually last week. And his grandson has announced on Facebook that Bradford Bamba Sr. has passed away at the age of 89. And certainly for a long period of time, a name synonymous with IU athletics as a team physician. Brad Bamba was 89. All right, still following game number 3 coming up later on tonight. And again, we'll re-rack my conversation with Spiro Ditas of TNT, who joined us after game number 2. Of course, he was doing the play-by-play, both game 1 and game number 2. But game number 2 in particular and how that thing ended. Yeah, following the stories, I know Rick Carlisle met with the media a little bit earlier, actually within the past 5 minutes or so, and talking about the situation going against this team, and the expectation is their guys, their 3 in Garland and Mobley and Hunter return. Also, if you're following what's going on at IMS with the GP, to nobody's surprise whatsoever, Alex Palou has won the pole for tomorrow's Sancio Grand Prix out at IMS. That happened within the last 20 or so minutes. Quick break, we'll come back. You, me, final time. Final time, we'll check in, at least on this show, with Jeff Rickard out at Advanced Auto Parts and Speedway on Crawfordsville Road. I'll tell you what, the porch party stuff is awesome. Your porch party pack is what you can get out there. So join Jeff while he is out there. We'll check in with him coming up for a final time. Last word with the Colts coming up. And then 7 o'clock, your pregame coverage with Pat Boylan, Mark Boyle, and Eddie Gill. Game 3 with the Cavaliers and the Pacers tips at 7:30 right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Couple of minutes while we relax. Spiro Ditas, TNT. Listed as questionable at the 5:30 injury report. Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter. Thumb, ankle, toe listed as questionable. Again, as of 5:30, I should say. Tip time tonight, 7:30. Game number 3 we're talking about, the Cavaliers and the Pacers Eastern Conference semifinals. I know that Rick Carlisle met with the media just a little bit ago. One of the quotes here, they're a 64-win team, talking about the Cavaliers. They've got 3 All-Stars, a 4th if you count Allen. We've been an underdog in every game this series, including tonight. It's hard. We've just got to be really on point with how we play. End quote from Rick Carlisle. Now, if you look at the Vegas odds, the Pacers are a home dog, being up 2-0, and still a little bit, I guess, of uncertainty regarding their 3 players. However, the Vegas odds, I think, would dictate that those 3 guys, as been reported this afternoon, will give this thing a go coming up later on tonight. It also tells you exactly how Vegas feels about the Cavaliers in general when they are even dinged up, banged up, whatever, at full strength. But what Rick Carlisle said in that final sentence, we've just got to be really on point with how we play. That's what I've talked about all afternoon. You need the game 1 execution and mentality. Game 2 is what you don't want at the beginning. Game 1 is why we don't look at game number 1 in Cleveland on Sunday night as the Pacers stealing that, because they had ownership of it from the opening tip basically all the way through, with the exception of about 5 minutes in the third. But it was game 2, even with the thrill, the excitement, and the incredible Tyrese Halliburton three-point make, the ending, and everything that fell into place, and all that chaos. The thing that you think about is fighting back a couple of different times, being down 20. Being down most of the game against the Cavaliers' backups. And knowing tonight you're going to have a crowd that is going to be absolutely ridiculous. I just got a check-in from Michelle Kiefer stating that at Coach's Tavern right now it is standing room only. So somebody better save me a stool and a beverage, because I am on the inbound here shortly. However, you know what the crowd's going to be like later on tonight. Pacers got to feed off of that, and this has to be from the opening tip on. And to me, has to be more reminiscent, certainly, of game number 1. And I know what you're saying. Well, they shot 53%. I mean, how can it not be? You can't always count on that. But what you can count on is better execution. And even though Cleveland came out and certainly was a lot more physical, which we described, they were defensively, especially against Tyrese Halliburton. In game number 1, he was incredibly comfortable. In game number 2, as we witnessed at the beginning, he was not. They were physical with him, no matter who was out there, no matter who was guarding him. You're going to find a way to get your pace back, to establish that early, and then roll with that particular pace. You look back, quarter number 1 on Tuesday night, well, all we think about is the 36 in the fourth quarter and the Tyrese Halliburton shot. Now, you go second, third, and fourth. That's where the Pacers want to be, 35, 34, and 36. That's the world in which they live, the pace that they have, the execution, the production, and the scoring. But the problem was 15 in the first. That's what gets you beat at home on a night like tonight. That can't happen. Now, it's great that they came back and won game number 2. But you do not want any reason for that team to believe, and you don't want any reason for you to believe that, hey, now they're all healthy, this is really going to be a series. And just knowing the opportunity that you have in front of you to, for all intents and purposes, really put them away. And do it in front of the home fans and know what you're going to get on Sunday night at 8 o'clock with game number 4, and know that you don't have to go back to Cleveland. And you can get some rest. And you can prepare to go to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. And again, all the dialogue that's going to be out there, if you lose, is going to be about, well, the Cavaliers were injured and this Pacer team's not as good. If you win against the group that's expected to play, then this team is for real and going to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. To me, the start is certainly necessary. One like we witnessed in Game 1, not what we witnessed on Tuesday night in Game number 2. James, thank you very much for that. We got the last word. We got Pacer pregame coming up. Pacer pregames at 7 o'clock. Spiro Ditas earlier this week from TNT talking a little bit more about this series. From TNT, Spiro Ditas on the Pacers Game 2 win in Cleveland. 2-zip best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals. Game 3 coming up on Friday night, and Spiro joins us now. So where does that ending rank in your career of calling play-by-play NBA games?
Oof, that's got to be right up there. It was, I just think considering the stakes, considering the environment, it's up there. You know, I had the fortune of working for the Lakers for 6 years and got to call 2 NBA finals, Lakers Celtics, and one other one, Lakers Orlando. Great memories there, but we never had one in the playoffs on a buzzer beater or almost a buzzer beater like last night. So I think it's got to be top 3 for sure, John. It was unbelievable.
Spiro, I have maintained this, and Tyrese Halliburton said he didn't miss it purposely. But my goodness, did things work out? That was the most well-executed play of the night. It could not have worked out any better had you called the timeout and executed purposely than the way that it did off of that miss. Because if you watch everybody on the line, they all looked like they knew where it was going. They all looked like they knew he was going to miss it. And then he directly went to the three-point line. They got the matchup clearly that you wanted. It was way too perfect not to be planned. Can we put it that way?
Yeah, I think you may be onto something. And Tyrese Halliburton, to do what he did last week in the clincher against Milwaukee was almost, basically once in a lifetime. And now to have done it twice in a week, I think, instantly puts him into a special class, in the history of this franchise. And I think everyone can agree he's a special player. Who knows how far he can take this franchise in the coming years. But this is, I don't want to say breakout because he's been great. He's already, been at the top of his class, and people speak about him like he's one of the best at his position, and rightfully so. But I think, maybe the ceiling is even higher than we thought. And, there are great players, John, in this league, but there's a separation when you talk about intangibles, when you talk about that inner fight and that inner spirit that I think few guys in this league have. And I would put him in that class. Just love everything about him, the way he fights. He's a guy who galvanizes his team, and he has taken this franchise to a different level. And I think we're all waiting to see how far they can go.
I explain this all the time. It is different for him, and especially when all that overrated dialogue from The Athletic happened. I said, everybody around here, remember what he does. Remember his responsibility. He's responsible not only to get his own, but this is a team that they can, but not on the reg, that can get their own. He's responsible getting everybody else going. That's elite level. And this is winning by a team concept, which you constantly see with this group. And it's going to be different than if you're described as an elite level, like a Donovan Mitchell, who's going to go get you 48 last night. But he's not going to distribute it and be responsible for everybody else in the capacity in which Tyrese Halliburton is. And to me, that makes it different.
Yeah, and we asked Rick Carlisle, who I've always said is one of the underrated coaches, which sounds crazy because the guy's won a title, but whenever the conversation comes up about the best coaches, for some reason his name doesn't come up nearly enough. So we asked Rick pregame last night just about Tyrese and the week that he's had, and he said, one of the reasons why we wanted to get him was, first of all, he's got an atypical personality for a star. He's not a guy who. Obviously he's confident, but he doesn't carry himself as the diva, those types of players. The other thing he said was he empowers his teammates, and he has this really unique ability to get his teammates to run. He has such a unique ability to galvanize that fast break, which has become such a big part of who they are. And he said these were the reasons why we were willing to give up a Sabonis to go get him. Because if you think back, now obviously it's worked out for the team, and the hindsight is always 20/20. But Sabonis at the time was a burgeoning star, and that was not an easy decision. But obviously it's something that's worked out, and I just think he's hardened, John. I think everything he's been through, the hamstring last year, Team USA experience over the summer wasn't great. Some of that stuff carried over into the start of this season. So I think the fact that he's also seasoned, he's hardened, he's tough. He's just he checks all the boxes right now. He really does.
Spiriditas of TNT. He's the play-by-play voice. You heard him last night with that game-winning call from Halliburton and more. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I mentioned this before you came on. If you were handing out an MVP so far in the postseason for the Pacers, I'd be hard-pressed not to give that award to Aaron Nesmith because he has been spectacular in all facets, and I'll give this quality a facet of its own, badassery on both ends. He's been exactly what has been needed from this team in the moments in which they've been needed, and certainly we saw that again last night at the close.
Yeah, and another move that Kevin Pritchard made. I mean, they're just so deep with these young, guard/wing players, and as we touched on the broadcast again last night with GA, who it just always has such a unique perspective. There's such a value now on wing players, John, who can both defend and who can shoot. So everyone sees how good he is, Nesmith, with his defense. But this year, top 10 also in the league as a three-point shooter. So his value. I mean, you think about his first 2 years with Boston. They took him in a high first-round pick. Was kind of a fringe guy. Never was really able to crack the rotation. To see how far he's come in just 2.5, 3 years with this team, I think is a testament, to him. He's a gym rat. He's got a great work ethic. But also, I think the developmental culture that Rick and Kevin have built with this franchise. And to go from a team that had a couple of lean years, maybe more than a couple, to where they are now, man, it's just really, really impressive what they're building with this group.
Yeah, it's funny, too, and I want to get your opinion of it because you called it last night. Before the game last night, the Coach of the Year, Kenny Atkinson, complained about the clutching and grabbing and physicality over physical group that the Pacers, he felt they were in that game number one. Then he complained about it again afterwards. However, did we not see his team do basically the same thing at the beginning, especially of the game, which is, I thought, the reason why the Pacers were out of it in that first quarter is because even off the make, you saw somebody run over and immediately grab around the waist or grab Halliburton to keep him from getting the ball, and then Nembhard subsequently would get it and have to bring it down the floor. I thought it was the physicality that he complained about that he utilized more often than not in game number two.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't kill Kenny too much because I've been such a big fan of his for a long time. I think he's a great coach. Was really happy to see him get his due with the Coach of the Year. I just think a lot of times with that stuff, John, it's just gamesmanship from the coaches. I mean, I think back to growing up in the 80s and, watching Phil Jackson work the refs through the media and Pat Riley, during these 7-game series, trying to get any kind of upper hand or any modicum of advantage with the officials going into the next game. I think that's all that is.
Yeah.
I think Kenny's got other things he's got to worry about because right now with the injuries to his three key guys, I mean, I think Cleveland at full strength would have their hands full with the Pacers. Now, not knowing the status of those three guys, especially Evan Mobley, who, I mean, is just such a massive difference maker, they're really behind the eight ball. I think this extra day of rest is huge for the Cavs and will go a long way in determining, whether they're able to break through in the series.
It's funny you mentioned it, too, because as you brought up, I brought up Phil Jackson and the playbook, as you just kind of described, that we know growing up and enjoying NBA basketball. Chris Finch just utilized that earlier today after game number one with the Warriors, basically saying the same thing, very similar dialogue. So it happens every year with most coaches this time of year.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, I just get a chuckle out of it. It's just a white noise in the background, and it is what it is.
That's Spiro Davis of TNT's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I had a guy on from Cleveland yesterday that covers the Cavaliers, and he felt optimistic about Darius Garland giving it a go, more so than Hunter, more so than Mobley, and as we found out, all three didn't go. Were you surprised that all three were set down for that game because of their variety of injuries? And certainly, has it surprised you that Garland has yet to give it a go through two games?
Yeah, I mean, I think yes is the short answer, but injuries are so tricky, John. I mean, you never know what these guys are feeling. I think what we've gathered with Garland is that if this was a regular season situation, he would be out for multiple weeks, and it's basically come to that now. Having missed now the last 3 or 4 games. It's a situation with him where, the starts and stops that happen, hundreds of times during the course of the game is what is giving him the most discomfort. So until he feels the pain threshold is at a point that he can play and play effectively, I think that's what it is. With Mobley, we heard that the next day he was barely able to put any weight on that ankle. So that's obviously a concern. The guy I thought would play would be Hunter. We've all had, or most of us have had dislocated or finger injuries. They're quite painful. Everyone knows that. But, with the proper tape job, with the proper wrap, sometimes we've seen guys give it a go. But obviously the fact that it's on his right hand, his shooting hand, clearly is an issue. So, again, extra day of rest, I think, can only help their situation. But, man, they got to get those guys, at least one of them, if not more, back into this. Because going to Indy, we were there for the playoffs last year. I mean, such an incredible atmosphere. Really, they're in as tough a spot now as I think anyone could have predicted 2 games in.
How was that in Cleveland? Because it sounded hellaciously loud in those first 2. Was that right up there with what you have with some of the best crowds you've covered and done play-by-play for in the past during these games?
It's the loudest arena I've ever been in. I don't know if they were pumping crowd noise in extra, but there were times I had to look at Greg and look at him when he was speaking, because I couldn't hear him at times. That's how loud it was. We had audio issues game 1. Our poor audio engineer mixer, who was as elite as it gets, we had some issues with all that crowd and the PA coming through the microphones. So it was chaos. It was incredible in terms of the atmosphere from a fan standpoint. And I have a feeling Indiana is going to be just as loud.
Is that what that was about, too? Because I kind of wondered. I'd mentioned sometimes when the ball went clean through the net, if it was pure, that sound would be louder than you and Greg and your voices. Was that what they were trying to even balance things out because of the crowd noise and everything else in that arena?
It's exactly the case. When there's all that crazy ambient background that's like artificial noise from the PA in arena, it just creates havoc for the audio engineers. And so, I think we figured it out yesterday. They were on it. Again, we have great technical people at TNT, so I think we'll be good moving forward. But yes, to answer your question, that's what it was about.
Hey, you've been around the NBA and done play-by-play for a long time. What do you make of, 5 games? And 5 road wins in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Is that where we are right now? I know the road teams are undefeated so far. What do you make of that?
I think, it's this where we are now with the league in terms of the regular season is just not a real good indicator anymore of the pecking order of these teams. Case in point, I was just talking to someone earlier today to put that number 4 seed in front of the Pacers. I mean, this is not your typical 4 seed. I think Indiana's just as good as basically any team in the league. I mean, I know Boston's won it, and they're clearly the class of the East. And obviously Cleveland had a great year, but Indiana, based on what we've seen, they can beat anyone. I mean, would anyone be surprised right now if Indiana comes through the Eastern Conference in the postseason? I wouldn't. And I just think because of the amount of games that players are missing due to injury and load management during the regular season, I just don't think the regular season has never meant a ton in terms of postseason success, but I think it means even less. Like, look at Golden State. I mean, does anyone see Golden State as a 7 seed? Of course not. But Golden State, obviously, maybe they're not a good example because they had the Jimmy Butler trade that really turned over their roster. But I don't know. I just think with the play-in tournament, teams resting and trying to manage the regular season, veteran teams, I just think we get to the playoffs and it's more of a surprise situation in terms of some of these teams coming through, and I think we've seen that clearly through the first couple of games of the second round.
He is Spiriditas of TNT. Had the call last night. Has the call not Friday. When do you have the call again for this series? You coming back at any point?
Game 4 and then Game 5. Assuming there will be a Game 5.
So you're going to be here this weekend then, huh?
We will. We'll be there for Sunday.
Well, we could work a little bit of I mean, I know it's Mother's Day and all. Maybe you dial it down a little bit, but we could work a little magic,
No, you have your people call my people.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I will say this: it is going to be hellaciously fun downtown.
It's going to be great.
This is what we live for this around here, and especially when we get a little bit further. Because, again, you look ahead, and I'm not predicting any of this, but if you look ahead, you're going to have the Indy 500. You could have the Indy 500 in the afternoon and then a, Eastern Conference Finals game in the evening. And there's some storied memory. I mean, really some tornadic story memories around here regarding those dynamics at play here, which could be. It's just always a great time of year when your team wins, it's one thing, but it's when it's the Pacers in this time of year and you're in the month of May with the Indy 500 coming up on the horizon too, it makes it even extra special.
I've said it many times. This is the most special time of year. Springtime, weather's starting to warm up a little bit, especially in some of these cold weather cities. And everything that I think we don't love about the NBA regular season, with guys sitting and load management and all the things that I think have plagued the league, all of that stuff goes away. No back-to-backs, the playing field levels, and everyone's playing every night. And there's just nothing like it. The atmospheres in these arenas are just off the charts. And, the NCAA tournament's great, John. The NFL playoffs obviously are awesome, but I put the NBA postseason up there with any of those things. It's just fantastic.
When you getting in here then? I'll have my people get a hold of you.
Saturday, early evening.
Early evening on Saturday. So you got, a little preparation on Sunday. Yeah. So be ready to rock. You have any thought about whether or not those three main guys may give this thing a go on Friday?
Hard to tell. Too early. Yeah. Too early. I just think based on the need, based on the urgency of the situation, I would be surprised if at least one of those guys doesn't try to play. Mobley, I think, is the biggest X factor. I think Garland's getting closer. Hunter, the fact that it's a finger, I think he's probably the most likely. But the guy I would worry about is Mobley, and this is just me talking without any inside information. I hope all three play, just for the sake of just from a fan's perspective, so we can see these two teams at full strength. Everybody, no doubt about that. Hey, Spiro, safe travels getting here coming up this weekend, and great. I know that was one of those moments for you last night that's pretty cool when you're doing the play-by-play of it, regardless of who you're calling, or the city that you're in, or the guy that you're talking to in the city that you're in that ended up winning that game last night. But that was some amazing moments. So, one final thing. Do you think he missed it on purpose, that free throw? I don't argue with you, John. So I think he did miss it. If that's what you think, then I think you missed it on purpose. Oh! And that just adds to the lore of the moment. Because if he did that and he did it so perfectly that thing came out, then holy cow. If that were you, would you tell everybody you missed it on purpose? Because I would. I probably would too. Yeah. Because I mean, you want everyone to know what's going on. You got to have a All right, man. Hey, safe travels. We'll check in coming up on Sunday or Saturday or something like that, okay? Sounds good, brother. Yeah, Thanks, Spiro Ditas of TNT's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline.